Chapter 1277. You are about to die, and yet you are still so arrogant. The Gongsun deity stood up and shouted, "Everyone, let's kill this traitor! Avenge the Shiman deity! Kill!" Some deities echoed. All of a sudden, the gods, who were already brimming with murderous intent, had their killing intent provoked, and they charged over furiously. Only one person gritted his teeth and rushed in front of all the deities. Stop it! It was the glittering deity. After some struggle, he stood in front of Suyu. Everyone calm down. I think there is something fishy about this. The glittering deity shouted. Have you noticed that when Gongsun injured people, did the silver god cooperate with him to injure anyone? No, it was all Gongsun's own words. Moreover, why don't you think about it? Since the silver god is plotting for the position of the Alliance Master, why was the tree goddess not used in such a major operation today? If the tree goddess were to make a move, based on everyone's state just now, how many of you would still be standing? The glittering deity's words hit the nail on the head. Indeed, if Suyu really wanted to plot against them, he would have sent the tree goddess. How could they be surrounded now? Some rational deities calmed down and fell into deep thought. Some impulsive deities were afraid of the terrible heritage of the glittering family and hesitated to move forward. Don't be afraid, everyone, let's go together. The Gongsun deity provoked. It was not easy to push the situation to this point. As long as they killed Suyu, they could kill two birds with one stone. Whoever dares to touch him will be the enemy of the glittering family. If he is hurt, the glittering family will pay for it. The glittering deity stared at the Gongsun deity. He felt that the Gongsun deity's provocation was more and more suspicious. He did not believe that Suyu was such a person. In addition, there were many suspicious points in the raid, so he was determined to protect Suyu. The Gongsun deity was furious. He was about to succeed, but the stubborn glittering family jumped out. He was filled with hatred and shouted, "Glittering deity, are you also an accomplice? How dare you protect him like this?" The glittering deity sneered. "Ridiculous. If I were an accomplice, would you still be standing here? With a grudge between us, it is intolerable that I did not take the opportunity to kill you." More and more people became suspicious. They also understood the hidden meaning of Gongsun deity's behavior. Wasn't Gongsun deity's behavior too unusual? Gongsun deity was getting more and more suspicious. If he didn't kill Suyu as soon as possible, he would be in big trouble when the deities interrogated him together and found out his doubts. The truth is right in front of us. If glittering deity is abusing his position for personal gain and covering up for Shiman Jian's murderer, then I have no choice but to put justice before family. The Gongsun deity shouted. The silver god harbored evil intentions and killed his meritorious subjects. Everyone, let's kill them together. The glittering deity sneered. Before we find out the truth, whoever dares to make a move. The two sides were in a deadlock. Many deity families had many worries. After pondering for a while, they chose to stand aside and watch. In the end, only the three families who supported the Alliance Master firmly followed the Gongsun deity. As the glittering deity stared at them, realization dawned on him. The rest of the deity families also frowned. They could see that something was amiss. Why did it seem like it was all the Alliance Master's people shouting and killing? On the contrary, the Shimin clan who should take revenge the most was incomparably calm. The uncoordinated atmosphere caused many deity families to fall into deep thought. Alliance Master Luo was secretly shocked. If they continued to suspect him, they would definitely suspect him. The glittering deity, Alliance Master Luo, was secretly resentful. If he hadn't stopped them, Suyu would have become a cold corpse. Turning his eyes, Alliance Master Luo stood up and said, "Stop. The glittering deity is right. There are many suspicious points in this matter. We can't kill a good person by mistake." The Gongsun deity was extremely unwilling. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to kill Suyu. However, he also saw the signs. If they insisted on continuing, their purpose would be too obvious. Even if they killed Suyu, the deity families would still suspect them. Therefore, they could only choose to give up and return to the Alliance Master's side. Suyu shook his head secretly. The glittering deity's good intentions were really bad. If he hadn't stopped them, all the deities who had rushed up just now would have died. As long as the hidden demon deity was released with the state of the many deities in front of them, everyone would die. However, doing so would not be able to explain clearly how Suyu had obtained the demon deity, which would make him the target of public criticism. The glittering deity breathed a sigh of relief and said with cupped fists, "Alliance Master, you are truly righteous. The death of Shimenjian is a great loss for the Great Western Alliance. This matter is of great importance, and I will definitely investigate it to the end." Alliance Master Luo's face was filled with grief as he spoke in a powerful voice. He looked at Suyu and said, "Although there are many suspicious points in this case, Suyu, you are the biggest suspect in this case. Before the case is clarified, you must be imprisoned until the truth is clear. Do you have any objections?" Staring at the dignified and righteous Alliance Master Luo, Suyu couldn't help but laugh. If he hadn't seen everything with his own eyes, he would have believed that Alliance Master Luo was an upright and selfless person. "No objections." Suyu smiled lightly. "Where do you plan to imprison me?" This was a very important question. How about the glittering deity's mansion? I believe that everyone knows what kind of person I, Glittering Jewel fan, am. Glittering Jewel deity answered first. The Gongsun deity said, "I disagree. You have a close relationship with the Silver God. Who knows if you will secretly let him go?" The glittering deity asked, "Then why not imprison him in the mansion of the Gongsun deity? Don't forget, you also have a grudge against him for killing your son. What if you torture him privately, kill him, and then frame him for escaping?" Not only was it inappropriate for him to be imprisoned by them, but it was also inappropriate for him to be imprisoned by other deity families. Because no deity family was worthy of full trust. There were countless connections between the 10 great deity families. It would not be wise to hand over an important suspect like Suyu to anyone else. "Stop arguing." Alliance Master Luo waved his hand and suppressed the quarrel. "I will personally take charge of the Silver God. How about that?" The deities gradually quieted down. If it was the Alliance Master, it was not impossible. In the chaos just now, the Alliance Master was also a victim, and there was no reason to let Suyu go. The glittering deity hesitated slightly. "What about the place of imprisonment? It can't be the Alliance Master's mansion, can it?" "Of course not. In order to be fair, he will be imprisoned in a place where everyone can watch." "Where?" "The Julie Cavern World. As long as we and the other deities work together to seal the Julie Cavern World and trap him, it will be fine." "How about that?" The glittering deity pondered for a while and felt that this was the most suitable method. "Then go now." Swish! Swish! Suddenly, the sky was filled with divine light. Under the witness of the deities, Suyu was banished to the Julie Cavern World. Alliance Master Luo and the 9 great deity families jointly sealed the Julie Cavern World. The seal could not be opened unless the person who sealed it acted together or was stronger than them. The glittering deity stared at Suyu and the seal and said, "Don't worry, if you are really innocent, we will clear your name." Suyu smiled lightly. "Thank you." Alliance Master Luo secretly stared at Suyu and said, "Disperse and investigate this matter immediately." The deities dispersed, leaving Suyu alone in the broken Julie Cavern World. "Haha, back to this pavilion again." Suyu teleported into the pavilion with a faint smile on his lips. Swish! With a gentle wave of his sleeve, the 3 princes and princesses and the 6 city masters all appeared. "How confident are you that you can break this seal?" The eldest prince looked up and lowered his head expressionlessly. "One sword for each of us will suffice." In other words, with his strength alone, he could fight against Alliance Master Luo and the 9 great anti-demon families. Although he might not be able to compete with them if they attacked with all their might, the absolute strength of the eldest prince was evident. "You want to break the seal and escape?" The 6th princess had a sly look. So you had already told them about what had happened just now. "I think if you escape, You may fall into the trap of Alliance Master Luo. Suyu smiled lightly. Of course I won't break the seal, because someone will break it. Who? Alliance Master Luo, of course. He will help me escape. Suyu's lips curled into a cold smile. The sixth princess was convinced, especially since this speculation came from Suyu. She said, "How are you going to deal with it? Now that you are imprisoned, even if you have the means, it will be difficult to use them. Of course, it will be easy to kill Alliance Master Luo, but it will be impossible to clear your name." Haha, have you forgotten that I already have a backup plan? Is it the tree goddess? The sixth princess's eyes flickered. Suyu nodded slowly. Yes, this incident forced me to make a major decision. The sixth princess's eyes lit up, revealing a look of anticipation. Haha, it seems that there's a surprise to see. Suyu rarely talked big, and the major decision he made must not be a trivial matter. All of you go back. I think the seal is about to be broken. With a wave of his sleeve, all the demon gods disappeared, and the remaining demonic energy was also erased by Suyu. Crack! There was a loud noise, as if somewhere in the cavern world was broken. Boom! Then there was a loud bang, and a destructive power rippled from the outside of the seal. The destructive power was almost at the level of destroying a cavern world. The seal outside, under the continuous bombardment, was quickly broken. A middle-aged woman appeared and hurriedly said at the entrance, "Silver God, go quickly. The gods have discussed and decided to put you to death. You are my benefactor, and I will go all out to save you." Suyu sat steadily in the gazebo, the corners of his mouth raised in a faint sneer. The Alliance Master really thought that he had deceived everyone, and no one had noticed anything. He even manipulated his own daughter to deceive Suyu. Suyu got up, a look of joy on his face. "Really? That's great. Please take me away." Luo Fei immediately flew over and clasped Suyu's shoulder, preparing to fly out of the Jiuli cavern world. Chapter 1278. Luo Fei turned her head and saw that Suyu was shrouded in a yellow halo, and his breath was connected with the broken continent of the Jiuli cavern world. "Why are you in such a hurry? Let's talk about how you controlled Gong Sunya first," Suyu said with a smile. Luo Fei's pupils shrank slightly, and she said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but you must go with me now, or your life will be in danger." "If I go with you now, my life will be in danger, right?" Suyu looked calm. "What?" Luo Fei's eyes flashed. An ray of light suddenly shot out from her sleeve, piercing Suyu's chest at close range. Ding! Unfortunately, with a crisp sound, the object that attacked Suyu bounced off forcefully, as if it had collided with an indestructible object. How is this possible?" She stared at Suyu and found that the yellow halo around Suyu had turned into a golden color, making him look like gold. The hidden weapon struck his chest, leaving only a shallow mark before it was easily deflected. Suyu smiled, and the color of his body suddenly changed again, turning into 5 colors. At the same time, the 5-colored light turned into a long chain, suddenly entangling Luo Fei. Luo Fei was shocked, and she let go of Suyu to block the 5-colored chain. However, as soon as the chain wrapped around her body, Luo Fei felt as if she was under the heavy pressure of the cavern world. She felt extremely heavy, and her movements were slow. When she realized that something was wrong and wanted to avoid the chain, it was too late, and she was firmly entangled by the chain. Her body softened, and she could not bear the heavy pressure of the 5-colored chain. With a thump, she fell to the ground, crushing the broken continent. Suyu stood with his hands behind his back, and with a suction force, the 5-colored chain tightened, bringing her to Suyu. Suyu squinted and looked at her slightly, and finally fixed his eyes on her lips. He took out a jade knife and gently scraped her lips, scraping off a layer of bright red rouge. Using the power of his eyes, the rouge continued to enlarge in Suyu's eyes. When it was enlarged to the limit, his face suddenly changed, and he flung his hand, throwing the jade knife away. Almost at the moment when he flung it away, the rouge on the jade knife suddenly squirmed. It turned into a handful and sprayed towards Suyu's face. Fortunately, Suyu reacted in time and threw away the jade knife, so it was not sprayed on. Under Su Yu's extreme eyesight, he could see that the so-called blood red rouge was actually a collection of small, weak, red worms. In other words, Luo Fei's mouth was full of these strange insects. These bugs gave Su Yu a sense of uneasiness that came from his soul. It was obvious that they had a great impact on his soul. Taking a deep breath, Su Yu said, "You indirectly controlled Gong Sunya through these worms, didn't you?" Before attending the wedding, Su Yu had carefully examined Gong Sunya to ensure that there were no hidden dangers in him that could be exploited by others. But in the end, Gong Sunya was still being used. But from the beginning to the end, Alliance leader Luo had never touched Gong Sunya. However, there was only one person who touched him, and that was the bride. Moreover, they had drunk the cup of wine from which the bride's lips had touched the bridegroom's drink. Now that he thought about it, the bride intentionally left the worm on her lips on the wine glass, and then passed it on to the groom during the toast. That was why Gong Sunya suddenly went crazy and ended up being manipulated. What do you know?" Luo Fei asked, looking a little nervous. Su Yu shook his head and said, "I know everything I need to know. For example, I know that Alliance leader Luo is secretly controlling Luo Fei. I also know that Alliance leader Luo must be near the Jiuli Cavern world and have set up an ambush. As soon as I leave the cavern world, your ambush will regard me as fleeing from punishment and then kill me openly." Luo Fei's beautiful eyes flashed with surprise and doubt. If one looked closely, Luo Fei's expression was slightly unnatural. It was as if there was a hidden personality that was being suppressed by something. Su Yu sighed silently. "Alliance leader Luo, in order to keep your position as the Alliance leader, I can understand that you sacrifice Gong Sunya, but can you even sacrifice your daughter?" According to his plan, the seal was opened by Luo Fei. So, if Su Yu absconded, could Luo Fei escape responsibility? Even if she was not killed, she would be killed by the angry deities of the Great Western Alliance. Gong Sunya would die, and so would Luo Fei. Swish! An amazing divine power suddenly filled the entire Jiuli Cavern world, shaking the world and causing it to shatter. The only person who had such divine power was Alliance leader Luo. "Oh, you actually came back to your senses so quickly?" Suddenly, a faint chuckle sounded from behind. He did not need to look back to know that it was Alliance leader Luo. Su Yu sighed. With a move of his mind, the power of 5 elements intensified. Luo Fei was overwhelmed and fainted. Turning around, he looked at the calm and confident Alliance leader Luo. Su Yu said, "You sacrificed your daughter. You sacrificed Gong Sunya. I want to know, what are you going to do next?" The Alliance leader looked at Su Yu as if he was looking at a man who had fallen into a trap and was about to die. He did not hide his ambition and chuckled. "Of course, I'm going to get rid of all the factors that can affect my position as the Alliance leader. For example, the B** star you brought back. She seems to know something." Su Yu's eyes turned cold. "B** starred? I'm really glad that Wuxia has never called you grandfather." "Oh, the deities have lived for a long time, and all kinship is fake. Only the great way of heaven and earth is my lifelong pursuit. These kinship will only become my obstacles, so it is better to get rid of them." Su Yu said, "What happens after I kill Gongsun Wuxia? You can sit on the throne for a while, but can you sit on it forever? I believe that my death will more or less arouse the suspicion of the anti-demon families. Then I will kill them until they don't dare to doubt me." The Alliance leader said coldly, "Lin Lang Fan has repeatedly opposed me. It is time to make an example of the rest of the anti-demon families." So you shook his head slightly. "You can't achieve the great way. You have cast aside the obstacles of kinship, but you're tied down by power. You are destined to be unable to go far." Upon hearing that, the Alliance leader laughed loudly. "What a joke. Only when you are at the top of the world are you qualified to guide the world, and only then can you hope to touch the great way that all living beings can't touch. You are a mere mortal fairy. What do you know about the great way? In short, those who stand in my way of controlling the world are standing in my way of the great way. Those who stand in my way of the great way shall be killed without mercy." The laughter shook the heavens and the earth. The cavern world shattered with a rumble and vanished in a puff of smoke. The boundless water of the Milky Way poured in, completely destroying the remaining continent. Everything is over, Silver God. When I conferred you the title of Silver God here, you were destined to be a stepping stone for me to set foot on the throne. Alliance leader Luo stepped forward and said lightly, "Rest in peace. This is your glory." However, at that instant, an aged sigh could be heard. "Ah, I am old, and I am indeed not suitable for the position of Alliance leader." The sudden old voice made Alliance leader Luo's face stiffen. He stopped in his tracks, and his pupils shrank. "Shimin Jian, you are not dead. Yes, you must be surprised. Alliance leader." Swish! A terrifying divine power that was not inferior to that of the Alliance leader forcibly descended upon the cavern world and completely shattered it. The divine light that filled the sky gathered and converged in the Xing River to form an old man with an old face and cloudy eyes. He carried a wooden sword on his back, like an ancient creature, and walked slowly. "It's really you. Impossible. You should be dead by now. I have checked your divine body. It can't be fake." Alliance leader Luo was horrified. Shimin Jian said lightly, "You can hide the ancient poison spell. Why can't I hide other secret techniques? Have you forgotten what my original form is?" The Alliance leader's pupils shrank slightly. The Shimin family is an ancient real spirit and the body of a sea snake. Can a sea snake die twice? Shimin Jian shook his head. To be precise, it is the body of a two-headed sea snake. Unless both heads are cut off at the same time, it will not die. And at the wedding, it was just one of my snake heads. A little rest, and I will recover. Hearing this, the Alliance leader was secretly shocked. His ultimate goal was to kill his competitor Shimin Jian, but he did not die. Suddenly, he glimpsed Su Yu's indifferent expression, and an incredible thought came to his mind. He said in a low voice, "Silver God, do you know that Shimin Jian is actually not dead?" Su Yu smiled and said nothing. Shimin Jian looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression, and when he looked at the Alliance leader, he showed a look of pity. "I faked my death because it was his idea. He knew about your entire plan a long time ago, and he sent the tree goddess to find me and inform me of your purpose. At first, I did not believe it, but when you secretly appeared near my mansion and tried to kill my son, I finally believed that you wanted to kill me." After hearing this, Alliance leader Luo was shocked. How is this possible? All my plans were careful and thorough. Could it be that the Gongsun deity betrayed me and leaked the news? Shimin Jian's eyes were even more pitiful. "Luo Huan, do you still not understand? You have met someone more sophisticated than you, who has seen through all your plans one step ahead of you. This is why I am here." Impossible. Alliance leader Luo could not believe it. He thought that his careful plan of killing two birds with one stone had been seen through long ago. Shimin Jian did not speak. He glanced around and suddenly grabbed the void. Suddenly, a crystal ball hidden in the void floated out. The crystal ball had long been opened, and on the other side, many deities of the Great Western Alliance appeared. They were led by the dead Shimin Shun to stand on the other side of the crystal ball, watching the details of this place from the whole city. Alliance leader Luo's heart was pounding, and his mind was racing. How could he explain that he had appeared in the Julie Cavern world? He did not know what to do. He shouted in a low voice, "Shimin Jian, how dare you? You faked your death to frame the Silver God. Surrender immediately, or this Alliance master will not spare you." What a joke. Shimin Jian shook his old head and said, "Alliance leader, you don't have to put on an act anymore. This video crystal ball has been here for a long time. Your words and actions have been transmitted to the anti-demon families of the Western Alliance. Haha, stopping you from becoming the Alliance leader is stopping you from pursuing the great path. Those who stop you will be killed without mercy. Also, you sacrificed your daughter, sacrificed Gong Sunya, and wanted to eradicate the glittering deity. These words have spread throughout the Great Western Alliance. So, Alliance leader, please stop your ridiculous act. There is no place for you in the Great Western Alliance." Chapter 1279. A leader who had assassinated the leader of the number 1 anti-demon family, who would eradicate the glittering jewel family, and who would deter all the other families. No one knew if they would become the next human family. Thud, thud, thud. Alliance Master Luo's back was drenched in cold sweat, and his face was as pale as a sheet. Listen to me. This is a conspiracy between Shimin Jian and the silver deity to frame me. Please believe me, it really isn't. Slap. On the other side of the crystal ball, Shimin Chun shouted angrily, "Enough! How much longer do you want to fool us?" The other god was also enraged. "We trusted you in vain, and yet you used us to get rid of your enemy for you. If it weren't for the glittering jewel deity stopping us, we would have killed the innocent silver deity and become your accomplices. Luo Huan, you don't deserve to be our alliance master." Angry roars rang out. When Luo Huan played the gods in the palm of his hand, he never imagined what would happen when his lies were exposed. The gods were not angry at Luo Huan's insidiousness and viciousness. This was the basic quality of a hero in a chaotic world. They were angry that they had been fooled by Luo Huan like idiots. This was the real reason for their anger. "Go, let's kill him together." Shimin Chun roared, and many angry gods responded. With a muffled sound, the crystal ball shattered, and Luo Huan's path as Alliance Master ended. It was over, it was all over. How many years of hard work had gone down the drain? Luo Huan could not accept the cruel situation, and he could not believe that he had suddenly lost everything. The divine power in his body vibrated and tumbled endlessly, and there was a faint tendency to go berserk. Great ups and downs were the easiest to trigger extreme human nature. Suddenly, Luo Huan's eyes turned red and shot toward Su Yu, his eyes bursting with a strong hatred. It was a hatred born from despair after everything had been destroyed. "It's all because of you." Alliance Master Luo seemed to have found a place to vent his anger. "It was you who plotted against me that led to this day. I want you to be torn into pieces." Su Yu's expression was indifferent. "You say it as if I forced you to take the risk. Moreover, you want to turn me into a stepping stone for you to ascend to the throne. Do I have to stand there quietly and be ruthlessly trampled to death by you? You have ulterior motives, and your schemes are not as good as others. Now you're blaming others for your failure? To think that I once said that you were very suitable for the position of the leader of the Great Western Alliance. I now take back this evaluation." Su Yu said disappointedly, "If I were you, I would escape to the vast Xing River immediately and lie low for 10 years. I would wait for the demon race to invade the world and appear when the world is in chaos. Then, I would look for an opportunity to stage a comeback. But now, you're losing your mind and shouting here. It's really unwise." This evaluation made Shimin Jian extremely emotional. Su Yu's tone was like that of a superior being, giving pointers to Luo Huan, a hero of his generation. It sounded unbelievable. After all, regardless of cultivation level or age, Su Yu was far inferior to Luo Huan. However, Shimin Jian did not feel the slightest bit out of place. From the looks of it, Su Yu was indeed qualified to guide Luo Huan. "Ha ha! Isn't it the same if I kill you and leave?" Luo Huan sneered. "Unless you think that you can stop me with just Shimin Jian?" Wow! In just an instant, Luo Huan crossed half of the cavern world and approached Su Yu. The monstrous murderous intent was unstoppable. Shimin Jian sighed silently, took the wooden sword from his back, and said, "It's true that I can't compete with you alone, but how do you know that I'm alone?" The wooden sword erupted with a strong spatial fluctuation, and a crack appeared in the middle. Then, a touch of emerald light suddenly bloomed. A graceful figure floated out. The unique scent of the ancient tongue tree belonged to only one person, the tree goddess. Luo Huan was slightly surprised, but then he understood. No wonder the Shimin family searched the entire Great Western Alliance and did not find any trace of the tree goddess. It turns out that you hid her by your side. Thinking about it carefully, it was ridiculous. The Shimin family's extensive search was just a show for Luo Huan. A feeling of being fooled surged in his heart, making his murderous intent even stronger. If that's the case, Then go to hell. Humph. With two light snorts, Shimin Jian and the tree goddess joined forces to protect Suyu. Puff. Bang. The three figures retreated as soon as they came into contact. Individually, the tree goddess and Shimin Jian were no match for Luo Huan, but when they joined forces, it was easy for them to gain the upper hand. Luo Huan was unwilling to give up and rushed forward with a roar. However, after a few rounds, not only did he not take the initiative and find an opportunity to kill Suyu, but he was also almost trapped and unable to escape. Seeing that the gods of the Great Western Alliance were about to arrive, if he did not leave now, he would not be able to escape. Luo Huan gritted his teeth and stared at Suyu with murderous intent. Silver God, you ruined my life's work, and I will not let this matter rest so easily. I will come back one day and kill all your cronies, including that bastard. I will make you regret everything you have done to me today. Get out of my way. With a roar, Luo Huan, full of hatred, broke through the joint forces of the two and disappeared into the vast galaxy. Suyu touched the Buddha beads on his wrist, hesitated a little, and did not make a move. This was Suyu's trump card. It was not used to deal with Luo Huan, but to deal with Swoosh. Not long after, rays of divine light descended in the surroundings. Shimin Chun led the deities to this place. Glittering deity stepped forward with concern. Silver God, are you all right? Suyu shook his head. I'm fine, thanks to Shimin deity's timely arrival. Hearing this, everyone looked at Shimin Jian and could not help but have a strange look on their faces. Not long ago, the two were enemies with a blood feud, but in the blink of an eye, they had become allies. The strangest thing was that Shimin Chun, who was clearly dead, was alive and well in front of them. Of course, they had roughly guessed the process from the crystal ball. The Silver God sent someone to secretly find Shimin deity and reveal Luo Huan's conspiracy. Then, he played along and lured the vicious schemer lurking in the Great Western Alliance out and revealed the truth to the world. The performance of the two had really deceived everyone. What surprised the deities even more was that the Silver God's calculations were flawless. When they were not aware of the Alliance Master's conspiracy, Suyu, the Silver God who had been in the Great Western Alliance for less than a month, had seen through it and set up a trap, causing the cunning Luo Huan to commit suicide in the Great Western Alliance. Many of the deities were secretly shocked. If Luo Huan was an ambitious person, then what level was Suyu, who knew everything about him like the back of his hand? Shimin Jian looked ashamed and bowed to Suyu from afar. I don't deserve it. It was the Silver God who saved my life. As he spoke, Shimin Jian felt even more ashamed and smiled bitterly. I was obsessed with power, so I humiliated you, who had a close relationship with Luo Huan, for no reason. I fell into the trap that Luo Huan had set up and was completely unaware of it. Shimin Jian had seen through the great calamity and understood a lot. The Silver God is right. To pursue the path of the Great Path and to stand above all living beings, of course, it is easier to touch the Great Path. However, to deliberately pursue power, on the contrary, it is inferior. We gods want the Great Path, not power. Shimin Jian bowed to Suyu again. Silver God, although you are young, you are far more insightful than us old bones who have lived for countless years. Thank you for your guidance, for helping me break through the fog. I apologize for all the wrongs I have done in the past. Suyu waved his hand with a faint smile and helped him up. Shimin deity, please get up. You are the mainstay of the Great Western Alliance. I can't afford it. At this moment, many deities looked ashamed and bowed to Suyu. Before, I have offended you. Please forgive me, Silver God. Although we were deceived by Luo Huan, we almost attacked you and made a big mistake. Looking at the deities apologizing one by one, Suyu unexpectedly did not help them up. Many of the deities were embarrassed and a little dissatisfied. This Silver God was a little too arrogant to accept the bow of 100 deities. This was a privilege that only the Alliance Master could have. I don't know how you feel after this incident, Suyu asked. The betrayal of the Alliance Master was unprecedented in the Great Western Alliance, and the impact was far-reaching. The top priority is to elect a new alliance master and quickly quell the unrest. Yes, choosing a new alliance master is the most important thing. Since ancient times, the Great Western Alliance had been a highly centralized organization. A group of dragons could not be without a leader, not to mention that the demons were about to attack. Suyu smiled faintly. So, have you decided to appoint Water as the alliance master? This, among the 10 great anti-demon family masters present, who would not be tempted. However, who had the qualifications to do so. Many deities looked at Shimin Jian and Glittering Deity. In terms of qualifications, the masters of these two families were undoubtedly the most likely candidates. I suggest Shimin Deity. I recommend Glittering Deity. Some deities of the families said one after another. There are also some deities of the families who were elected. The deities had different opinions. So you stayed out of it, as if he was watching a good show. With a sarcastic look, he quietly watched the gradually chaotic scene. Shimin Jian's eyes flashed, and he said, Silver God, why don't you tell us your thoughts? Glittering Deity also said, well, you have contributed the most to this matter. Why don't you tell us how we should deal with this after this incident? With the two most powerful deities speaking, the other deities naturally quieted down. They were also curious about what Suyu would say. Suyu looked around at the deities and said with a smile, you only see the vacant position of the Alliance Master. Have you ever reflected on why this position is vacant? Of course, it was because Luo Huan had used a conspiracy to persecute Shimin Jian. All of a sudden, the gods seemed to have understood something. Because of contradictions, Suyu said lightly, no matter how highly centralized and unified the Great Western Alliance seems, internal contradictions have always been present. The contradictions between the families and the Alliance Master, the accumulation of contradictions, is endless. If there is a demon invasion, these contradictions will be temporarily covered up, but once there is peace, like today, the contradictions will grow. In order to keep the position of the Alliance Master, Luo Huan will kill his competitors, and the families will suppress the other families in order to obtain a higher ranking. I would like to ask all of you here, which of the Alliance Masters you elect can resolve the contradictions from now on? The deities looked at each other. The answer was impossible. Even if Shimin Jian or Glittering Deity became the Alliance Master, the contradictions could not be resolved. This was because the two of them had the support of different families. Whoever became the Alliance Master, the families that supported the two sides would be in a hostile situation. Choosing a new Alliance Master will not solve any problems. Maybe it can take 100 years, 1,000 years to slowly deal with it. But do you have that much time? Will the demons give you time to resolve the contradictions? The answer was no. Chapter 1280. Then, let me ask you another question. A Great Western Alliance full of contradictions. When the time comes to fight against the Devil Clan, will it really be able to exert its full strength? Not to mention, we still have to unite with the Eastern Alliance. How should we deal with the conflict between the Western Alliance and the Eastern Alliance? The question that hit the nail on the head caused all the gods present to ponder deeply. Yes, they were too scattered, while the demon race was united as a fortress. There was a great disparity in strength between the two sides, and they were not united. The battle 10 years later would be a battle of annihilation. Shimin Jian and the Glittering Jewel Deity agreed with him. In the Great Western Alliance, choosing any deity to be the new alliance leader would not solve the problem. Time was too tight, and they urgently needed to resolve their conflict. In your opinion, who is the most suitable candidate to be the Alliance Master? Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan threw the thorny problem to Suyu. However, even they had never expected Suyu to give them the best candidate. It was impossible for Suyu to be more familiar with the Great Western Alliance than they were. Of course, I'm the most suitable one, Suyu said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, the entire galaxy fell silent. All the sounds of discussion seemed to have been ruthlessly cut off. Absolute silence. All the gods felt as though they were hallucinating, wondering if they had misunderstood something. Even the Glittering Deity hesitated for a moment before asking, Silver Deity, What do you mean by that? Suyu had a calm look on his face. It's exactly what it means. I will be the Alliance Master. In an instant, the entire galaxy was in an uproar. The leader of the Great Western Alliance was the most prestigious existence in the galaxy, on par with the Dakini of the Great Eastern Alliance and the demonic emperor of the demonic world. A mere third-realm mortal fairy who was only in his 20s and whose status was merely that of a substitute deity, claimed that he was more suitable than anyone else to be the Alliance leader. If he hadn't heard it with his own ears, he would have treated it as a joke. However, this scene happened right before his eyes. Silver God, are you sure you know what you were saying? That's right. Any deity here can be the leader of the Great Western Alliance except for you, right? In terms of qualifications and strength, Silver God, you should give up on that idea for the time being. These could still be considered good-natured. There were many who sneered and sent malicious voice transmissions. Ha ha ha, what a joke. An outsider deity covets the position of the Alliance Master just because he has a powerful deity as his follower. That's right. What right does he have? Just because you're a little smart? If he really becomes the leader of the Great Western Alliance, it will be the joke of the galaxy. Even Shimin Jian and Glittering Deity were silent. Suyu's request was this was impossible. Suyu calmly looked at the gods present, and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Originally, I had no interest in the position of the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance, and I wouldn't have cared even if you offered it to me. However, your performance at the wedding made me decide that the position of the Alliance Master cannot be given to any of you. This was the determination that Suyu had made. Seize the position of Alliance Leader. Finally, a deity questioned Suyu directly. Silver God, you want to become the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance. What is your reason? In the eyes of the deities, Suyu would probably say something nice like unifying all the factions and fighting against the demon clan together. Then, Suyu said something that caused them to explode. Because all of you are too stupid. You need a smart person to lead you. The whole place was silent for 3 seconds before it exploded. Who are you calling stupid? How presumptuous. Silver God, take back your words immediately. Otherwise, I will regard it as an insult to the Great Western Alliance. A torrent of abuse hit like a tidal wave. Suyu was calm. He looked around at the gods and sneered coldly. Do you still need me to insult you? With just a few words, you were used by Luo Huan without the slightest time to think. Who was the one who shouted to kill the wronged? If I were a demon and any of you were elected, I would have a way to make fools like you kill each other like you did today. The gods were angry. Suyu's words poked at their weakness, but they couldn't convince them. This is just because we trusted Luo Huan too much. It's not because we lack thinking. The corners of Suyu's lips curled up into a cold smile. Do you mean that if another unexpected situation occurs, you will be extremely calm and rational? As soon as this question was asked, many of the gods looked very gloomy. Silver God, there must be a limit to your bullying, right? After all, we are gods who have lived for thousands of years. Don't deny our thousands of years of recuperation because of one incident. Suyu said lightly. All right. Suyu flicked his wrist, and the Buddha beads made a tinkling sound as they collided. Then, 9 streams of terrifying devil chi came from beyond the heavens and shrouded the Milky Way. In the demonic aura, the bodies of 9,000 feet tall demonic gods were looming, emitting a terrible aura that shook the galaxy. In particular, the 3 at the front gave all the gods present a terrifying sense of majesty. Demon gods. 9 demon gods? No, those 3, they are the demon prince and the demon queen. Demon emperor's children, run. The demons are invading. They are invading on a large scale. If it were ordinary demon gods, they probably wouldn't be so flustered. However, the ones who appeared were not ordinary demons, but the rumored demon prince and demon queen. Combined with what Suyu had seen and heard, they were instinctively afraid. Panic spread like a plague. No one knew who screamed in horror, but 100 gods suddenly fled in panic. Stop right there. Those who flee kill. Shimin Jian and Glittering Deity shouted at the same time. their murderous intent awe-inspiring. The two of them were majestic, and their loud roars really frightened the frightened gods. Suppressing their fear, they gathered together again and stared at the 9 demonic gods in horror. In the galaxy, there had never been 9 demonic gods who descended together, and there had never been a demon prince and demon queen personally leading a team. Especially the demon prince and demon queen, the impact on them was too great. The Silver God. The Silver God is a traitor. He actually hid a demon god with him. No wonder he could come out of the demon dimension alive. He must have surrendered to the demon dimension. He gained our trust in order to lead the demons to attack us. Don't be afraid, everyone, we have the numbers. Let's go together and destroy the Silver God first, then fight against the demon gods together. In the panic, everyone huddled together and found a common goal. All of you stop. What a disgrace. Shimin Jian's old face was red as he snorted angrily. Glittering deity stared at them coldly. A bunch of idiots. For the 2 gods to curse, it was obvious how angry they were. The gods quieted down a little, but the Silver God colluded with the demon dimension. Shut the hell up? Will you calm down? Glittering deity glared at him angrily. If he really colluded with the demon dimension, wouldn't it be easy to kill all of you at the wedding today while you were poisoned? Is it necessary to fight them alone now? Yes. After being scolded by Shimin Jian and glittering deity, many gods finally calmed down a little and realized that this seemed to be the problem. When all the gods had calmed down, Suyu sneered. Is this what you call 1,000 years of recuperation? What happened to being insulted? What happened to being calm and collected? In the face of the still bewildered gazes of the gods, Suyu said lightly, "Tell these idiots who you are." "Yes, master." The 9 demonic gods flew behind Suyu and greeted him respectfully, calling him master. This scene caused the galaxy to fall into dead silence again. After a long time, there was a gasp. I didn't hear it wrong, did I, master? I think he called me master. Did he subdue so many demonic gods? There is even a royal family among them. The first prince held his sword with both arms and looked at the gods with disdain. He said coldly, "The first prince of the demon dimension, Jing Feiyun." Hiss. Among the crowd, there was another gasp. The first prince of the demon dimension, the rumored most powerful prince and princess? Even Shimin Jian and glittering deity shuddered, and their scalps went numb. It was rumored that the first prince of the demon dimension was unparalleled, second only to the demon emperor and the god of death. The 2 of them looked at the first prince and felt as if their souls had been pierced by a sharp arrow. They were horrified. The 6th princess of the demon dimension, Jing Xian. TSK, a bunch of idiots. The 6th princess snorted coldly and arrogantly. When her gaze fell on Suyu, her beautiful eyes shone brightly. The more she followed Suyu, the more she realized Suyu's charm. In comparison, the gods who boasted of their intelligence were as stupid as ants in front of Suyu. The more she looked, the more the 6th princess's heart beat. The 2nd princess of the demon dimension, Jing Yan. Really, why do I have to report my origins to this group of weak idiots? The 2nd princess stared at Suyu with dissatisfaction. Among the 3 princes and princesses, she was the only one who had not been restricted. But her tone was as if she was living under someone else's roof. The Demon Dimension's Raging Fire City Master, Zhang Shun. The Demon Dimension's Qinyuan City Master, Zhang Lai. The 9 demon gods reported their origins and looked at the hundreds of gods of the Great Western Alliance with indifference. Their lofty arrogance and disdain were in stark contrast to their reverence for Suyu. At this moment, all the gods of the Alliance were shocked and no longer had any doubts. Suyu had really subdued 3 royal demon gods and 6 demon gods of the same level as the city master. Since ancient times, this was the first time a Xing River creature had done so. Suyu looked at the gods in the sky and said indifferently, "History tells us that groups are ignorant. You have used your actions to illustrate this historical conclusion very well." Hearing this, the faces of all the deities in the world flushed red, and they felt ashamed. They swore that they had thousands of years of cultivation and refused to accept Su Yu's criticism of their stupidity. But the result? It turned out that they were stupid. They panicked in the face of unexpected events and had no time to think. If such a person became the alliance leader, what would they do if they encountered a sudden invasion of the demon race? The gods smiled bitterly, and no one dared to confront Su Yu. Su Yu looked around at them coldly, and his voice shook the Xing River. I want to be the alliance leader. Who else disagrees? Who else disagrees? Who else disagrees? Chapter 1281. Who wouldn't be convinced? In terms of power, Su Yu had the power that none of the anti-demon families could match. He had 3 princes and princesses, 6 city masters, and 6 deities under the command of the Gongsun deity. Even Luo Huan's forces had not reached such a powerful level at his peak. In terms of ability, Luo Huan could be considered a formidable hero of his generation, toying with the gods in the palm of his hand. However, Luo Huan was Su Yu's plaything. The most suitable candidate for the alliance master position was none other than Su Yu. Shimin Jian and glittering deity looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The founding ancestors of the Great Western Alliance would never have imagined that one day the Great Western Alliance would be led by an outsider. However, they also felt that Su Yu was more suitable than anyone else. Su Yu did not belong to any faction in the Great Western Alliance. Once he came to power, no faction would receive preferential treatment or suppression. At the same time, his identity as the acting deity of the Great Eastern Alliance would have a moderating effect when the Eastern and Western Alliances formed an alliance to avoid violent confrontation. Furthermore, judging from the behavior of the various gods just now, they were indeed too stupid and needed an elite to lead them. After a moment of silence, the 2 most prestigious family heads nodded and said, I, Shimin Jian, recommend the Silver God to be the new leader of the alliance. I, Linlang Fan, nominate the Silver God as the new alliance leader. With the 2 of them speaking, the position of alliance leader was basically settled. After that, the gods expressed their support one after another. So what if they didn't support it? Su Yu's expression was calm as he said, I will accept the position of alliance master, but I will accept it for all of you. The deities were all embarrassed. Was it because they were stupid that the deities had come to lead them? The gods could only smile bitterly. Next, it's time to investigate the remaining evil of Luo Huan. Su Yu said coldly, Luo Huan is not dead yet, and the remaining evil must be eliminated. Otherwise, it will become a serious threat to the Great Western Alliance. The gods had no objections to this. Imagine if they were fighting the invading demons, and Luo Huan suddenly jumped out and commanded his loyal subordinates to stab the alliance in the back. How terrifying would that be? Of course, getting rid of them would result in losses, but it was for the sake of avoiding more casualties in the future. The degree of cleansing is divided into 2 levels. First, kill all the subordinates who participated in this conspiracy. Leave none alive. Their families would be handed over to the other deity families for strict supervision. All the god names bestowed upon him were erased from now on. All old friends, disciples, masters, and other familiar people are to be investigated by the alliance. Those who do not obey will be seen as participants in the conspiracy and will be killed without mercy. Hearing this, the gods, who had been mentally prepared for this, shuddered in fear. This was the annihilation of the entire clan. Of course, Su Yu still left a way out. He only imprisoned his clansmen and handed them over to other deity families as slaves. As for old friends, disciples, and other related people, they were investigated. Although he had eased up a little, the ruthlessness of his methods did not match his age at all. Second, the type that can atone for one's crimes. Set up a restriction on the gods who are unaware of the situation and have been coerced. Assign them to the other aristocratic families and listen to their orders. If they have any ulterior motives, kill them. The deities secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that Su Yu, who had just been promoted to a higher position, would suddenly become excited and kill all of them. If it was really like that, then the losses this time would be too heavy. That's all. Shimin Jian, Linlang Fan, take your men with you. If you encounter any resistance, obstruction, or refusal to cooperate, kill first and report later. Yes, the murderous order shocked the deities of the heavens. From his strength to his methods to his temperament, all of them were sincerely convinced. This was definitely an existence more ambitious than Luo Huan. With awe in their hearts, many deities went to carry out the order. 10 days later, in the meeting hall of the Alliance Master's mansion, which had changed owners after 10 days of intense cleanup operations, the 3 great deity families that were affiliated with the Alliance Master had all been investigated. Reporting to the Alliance Master, the heads of the 3 great anti-demon families, led by Gongsun deity, were all participants in the conspiracy. Among them, Gongsun deity was the mastermind. Please make a decision, Alliance Master. Su Yu's eyes turned cold. The heads of the other 2 great families will be executed immediately. Gongsun deity will be deprived of his godly spirit. His divine blood will be extracted, and his head will be displayed in public. The people of the Gongsun family will be slaves and will never be employed again. The conflict between Gongsun deity and Su Yu is well known, so no one pleaded for them. In that case, the cleanup operation is complete. Shimin Jian heaved a sigh of relief. The number of people killed and injured in the past few days was not small. Glittering deity was also a little tired. In the past 10 days, he had to kill a deity almost every day. There were even more prospective deities, no less than 30 or 40. Among them, most of them were descendants of the deities who had committed crimes. In short, the massacre this time could be said to have shaken the Great Western Alliance and was unprecedented. However, because of this, the Great Western Alliance was ruthlessly massacred and the unstable elements were swept away. Reporting to the Alliance Master, there is one more thing to report, Glittering deity said hesitantly. Su Yu said, go ahead. Shimin Jian and I caught a group of people during the cleanup process. They tried to escape from the Great Western Alliance. After they were discovered by my people, we caught them and brought them back for confidentiality reasons. Su Yu was surprised. Who could it be that needed Shimin Jian and Glittering deity to capture together? Tell me, who are they? If they're not guilty, they can be pardoned, Su Yu said. Glittering deity said, they are the emissaries from the Great Eastern Alliance, the Sheng deity, the sword deity, and the daughter of the Sheng deity, Sheng Yuanxin. They were originally responsible for discussing alliance matters. This time, they discovered the changes in the Great Western Alliance and were worried about getting involved, so they fled. Hearing this, Su Yu was surprised. How could he have almost forgotten about them? The delegation represented by the Sheng deity had arrived at the Great Western Alliance as early as half a year ago to discuss the joint alliance between the 2 alliances. It was only because Gongsun Shan, the son of Gongsun deity, was greedy for Sheng Yuanxin's beauty. Threats and promises had failed, so the alliance was delayed until today. The alliance is inevitable. This matter will be handled by me personally. Bring them to see me alone. The deities had no objections. They were also inclined to form an alliance. However, in the past, Luo Huan was in power and allowed villains to obstruct the alliance. Now that Alliance Master Su was in charge, there was no more suspense. After the meeting, in the prison of the Great Western Alliance, Shimin Jian and Glittering deity came together. Walking to a cage that even the deities could not break, the 2 smiled slightly. Sorry for the inconvenience. The Alliance Master invites you in. The Sheng deity's pretty face turned cold. The new Alliance Master? Humph! Why did the coup in the Great Western Alliance involve us and imprison us? The Great Eastern Alliance will not let this go. Speaking of which, they were really wronged. They had traveled thousands of miles to discuss the alliance, but they were put in a difficult position. Not only did they achieve nothing in half a year, but they were also involved in an unprecedented bloody coup in the Great Western Alliance. During those days, the heavens wept blood every day, deities fell, and heads rolled. The whole Great Western Alliance was in a state of panic and anxiety. The Sheng deity felt that this was not the time to form an alliance, so she led her people away secretly. However, she was detained by Shimin Jian and Glittering deity for 5 or 6 days on the grounds that they could not leak the secret. For more than half a year, the Shang deity had been suffering and sulking. Now that she knew that the new alliance master who had ascended through the coup wanted to see them, she naturally did not look happy. Shimin Jian said blankly, "Shang deity, please come with me. The alliance master invites you in." The Shang deity's face was livid. She sneered, "What if I don't go? Will he kill me?" She did not believe that the alliance master would be so reckless as to kill an envoy. However, the indifferent expressions of the two deities stunned the Shang deity. Our new alliance master is a man of great talent and strategy. His ambition far exceeds that of any previous alliance masters. I advise you not to be a stumbling block for him, Shimin Jian said lightly. Glittering deity said, "The alliance master will not tolerate anyone standing in his way of hegemony. If you continue to be stubborn, I don't think that a mere identity as an envoy will make him afraid." Hearing the two deities with the highest status in the Great Western Alliance treat the alliance master who had ascended through the coup as if he was the great way of heaven and earth, she could not help but be astonished. Great talent and strategy, unparalleled ambition, and hegemony? The current alliance master, Luo Huan, was said to be an ambitious person. It was rare to see such a person even in 100,000 years. Could it be that the current alliance master was even more outstanding than him? Hegemony? How arrogant. However, I can understand. After all, you have just pledged your allegiance to him. Naturally, you have to flatter him, the Shang deity said disdainfully. Shimin Jian and glittering deity shook their heads lightly. Ha ha, an unparalleled person who is killed in and out of the demonic world. The demonic prince and demonic queen serve him as their master, and the city master and demonic god follow him loyally. I don't think he needs people like us to flatter him. Upon hearing this, the Shang deity, who was getting up, froze. Then, as if she had been electrocuted, she suddenly raised her head and said in shock, "What did you say? The demonic prince and demonic queen serve him as their master?" During the battle in the world of divine remains, the horror of the seventh prince and sixth princess was still vivid in her mind. How could there be a living creature who could make such powerful beings surrender? The Shang deity could not believe it. Moreover, he had killed in and out of the demonic world. Since when did such an unparalleled divine king exist in the Milky Way? Not only that, but our new alliance master's ambition is not in the Western Alliance or the Eastern Alliance, but the entire Milky Way. His next step is to unify the Milky Way, control all living creatures in the Milky Way, and compete with the demonic world. This is an ambition that the previous alliance masters of the Great Western Alliance have never had. The Shang deity could not describe the shock in her heart. The Great Western Alliance actually had such a terrifying existence. Compared to this, the Eastern Alliance, which was already in a weak position, was even more. Shang deity, think about it carefully. If you stand in the way of the alliance master's hegemony, your identity as an emissary will not be of any use, Shimin Jian said. The Shang deity's expression had already changed. She no longer had any disrespect. She said, "Do we go now? He is waiting for you." The Shang deity's body trembled, and she felt uneasy. Who is this unparalleled divine king of the Milky Way? The Shang deity found that she had not felt for many years, and her heart was filled with anxiety. The sword deity's lips also trembled slightly. Although Shimin Jian and the glittering deity had only said a few words, in his ears it was as magnificent as an ancient myth. Killing in and out of the demonic world, conquering the demonic prince and princesses, creating clouds and rain with a flip of his hand, launching a coup, and quickly ascending to the position of alliance master. Every single thing, every single one of them, just listening to it made his blood boil. Both of them felt great pressure, just like when they were small mortal fairies and were received by a deity. "It seems that you all understand. Then let's go," Shimin Jian said, glancing at the depths of the cage, at Shang Yuanxin, who was motionless. "You all want to see him. Come together." Shang Yuanxin was indifferent, and she seemed to be in low spirits. The Shang deity sighed secretly. Suyu's death, and she was forced to get married, and the successive blows had indeed worn down her will. However, now was not the time to be willful. They were going to see the unparalleled hero that had never appeared before. Yuan Xin, what are you talking about? If you offend the Alliance Master, even your mother can't save you. Hearing the reprimand, Shang Yuanxin reluctantly got up and followed behind them gloomily. She whispered, "What unparalleled hero? If Suyu was still alive, he would be able to do it one day." She had an almost blind faith in Suyu. "Shut up," the Shang deity scolded. "Suyu is dead. I admit that he was outstanding, but dead is dead. He has no value. What you're going to see now is an unparalleled great emperor. Don't talk nonsense anymore." Shang Yuanxin was resentful, but in her heart, she firmly believed that if Suyu was alive, given time, he could also become a great emperor in the Milky Way. Chapter 1282. Alliance Master Residence, Conference Hall. Suyu sat quietly on the Alliance Master's throne. It was forged from the Star River Heaven crystal sand, which had a very obvious strengthening effect on the celestial energy sphere. It was also greatly beneficial to one's cultivation. In just 10 days, Suyu had silently broken through from the third realm of mortal fairy to the fourth realm of mortal fairy. He was only one step away from breaking through to the prospective deity. At this moment, he was quietly flipping through the precious books in the Alliance Master's residence. These books were the only copies in the galaxy and could not be obtained in the outside world. They had been passed down in the Alliance Master's residence for millions of years. They were the oldest books in the world. Moreover, only the Alliance Master had the authority to read these legacy books. Much of the information recorded in it was related to the lost ancient era. Although the information in the ancient records was messy and fragmented, it wasn't hard to tell that the ancient era of the Milky Way was an unbelievably prosperous era. In that era, a celestial elixir could allow a mortal to become a god in one step, and a divine art could allow a mortal to contend against the great Tao of heaven and earth. In that era, there were as many gods in a galaxy as there were hairs on an ox. The entire galaxy was connected with the cavern world, and the vast divine light that burst out illuminated the entire ancient galaxy. In that era, many peerless figures who were like overlords of heaven and earth appeared. With a single thought, the immortal abode world was annihilated, and with a single finger, the universe was turned upside down, and yin and yang were in chaos. However, that era perished billions of years ago. None of the ancient records described the cause of destruction. It was as if there was some existence in the world that had erased the cause of destruction, making it impossible to record it. He only knew that the prosperous era was destroyed overnight. The overlord of heaven and earth disappeared. The peerless deities fell one after another, and the boundless cavern world continued to collapse. In an instant, the brightly illuminated Milky Way turned into a patch of dead silence. Only the two alliances of today were struggling at death's door. They were not even a billionth of what they were during the Golden Age. What had happened back then that caused that glorious era to disappear overnight? Suyu surveyed the hidden treasure, but did not find any clues. He only saw 3 blurry words on a tattered, ancient book, but they were specially marked by the ancient god's blood. Ancient God Realm. This dilapidated book was records of the Grand Historian, which recorded the important history of the universe. The 3 words Ancient God Realm were the last 3 words recorded in the records of the Grand Historian. After that, it seemed to have been destroyed by some kind of power. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that those 3 words were marked with God's blood, they would have been erased as well. The Ancient God Realm again. Suyu murmured. He knew about the existence of the Ancient God Realm from the Demon Emperor's children, but they didn't know where it was or what it represented. Before the fall of the Golden Era, the last place recorded in history was the Ancient God Realm. Could it be that the destruction of that era was related to the Ancient God Realm? After reading it, Suyu could not pull himself away for a long time. It turned out that such an incredible era once existed in the Milky Way. Every alliance leader had left a note in the ancient records, and all of them referred to it as the ancient mythological era. They all revealed boundless yearning and regret, hating themselves for not being born in that glorious mythological era. Unfortunately, everything had been wiped out in the mysterious upheaval. The two remaining alliances had only inherited a trace of the mythological era. Suyu sighed silently, his mind unable to calm down for a long time. When Shang Deity, Sword Deity, and Shang Yuanxin entered the palace, they saw a figure leaning on the throne of the Alliance Master and reading the ancient books carefully. Because the books blocked his face, they could not see his face clearly. They could only recognize that this great emperor-like figure was very young. The Sword Deity took a light breath and looked at Shang Deity, both of them looking surprised. Shang Deity, if this great almighty did not deliberately conceal his age, he seems to be in his 20s, right? The Sword Deity secretly transmitted his voice. Shang Deity was astonished. Yes, he is too young. He can't be the Alliance Master, can he? No matter how talented he was, at such a young age, it was impossible for him to become such a powerful and mighty existence, right? However, Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan bowed. Reporting to the Alliance Master, the person has been brought here. He was really the Alliance Master. Shang Deity and Sword Deity were shocked. How could the great and mighty almighty emperor be such a young person? Oh, so you woke up from his deep thoughts and slowly closed the book. Shang Deity and Sword Deity held their breaths and stared at Suyu, who was gradually revealing his true appearance. They were extremely curious about what kind of existence this young, almighty emperor was. When the ancient book was completely closed, Suyu's true appearance was fully revealed. His long silver hair was casually draped over his shoulders. His handsome face was as handsome as an immortal, reflecting a confident expression. At this moment, Shang Deity and Sword Deity were stunned. They were stunned for a full 10 breaths. They stared at Suyu's face without blinking, as if they had fallen into some kind of doubt. Strange thoughts even flashed through their minds. Could there be a strange illusory spell here that allowed them to see Suyu? Until Shang Yuanxin's scream pulled them back to reality. Suyu, you are not dead. An exclamation filled with surprise, joy, and excitement that swept away all the gloom in the room. How dare you? How dare you call the Alliance Master by his name? Shimin Jian shouted. Kneel down and beg the Alliance Master for forgiveness. Shimin Jian was extremely imposing, and Shang Yuanxin was so frightened that her knees buckled and she almost knelt down. Ha ha, Miss Yuanxin, long time no see. So you put down the book in his hand and smiled. Shang Deity and Sword Deity looked at Suyu in disbelief. Their mouths opened, but no words came out. How could they accept that Suyu, who had clearly died in the demonic dimension, had become the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance in the blink of an eye, and a powerful being of the Xing River who had dominated time and space? The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. Shimin Deity, Linlang Deity, you may leave. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan retreated in awe. When they were the only ones left, Suyu smiled lightly. I haven't seen you in years. How have you been? Shang Deity said with great difficulty. I'm fine, Sword Deity stammered. Yes, it's been a long time. Only Shang Yuanxin's eyes were sparkling, and her face was overflowing with surprise. She stared at Suyu without blinking. Sit down. Suyu waved his hand and smiled. Shang Deity and Sword Deity still felt like they were in a dream. They said, no, that's not necessary. We could just stand and talk. Only then did they react, and they immediately knelt on one knee. Greetings, Alliance Master Su. Suyu sighed helplessly. Both of you are old friends. Why do you have to be so distant? How could Shang Deity and Sword Deity still dare to treat Suyu as a small acting deity of the Great Eastern Alliance? Hearing that, they sat down anxiously. However, Shang Yuanxin, who was innocent by nature, sat down with a smile and chattered, I knew you wouldn't die so easily. Humph, you are the most cunning. Others said that you fell into the demonic dimension and must have died but I think you probably didn't die." Sure enough, not only did you not die, but you also became the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance. Ignoring Sheng Deity and Sword Deity's fearful eyes, Sheng Yuanxin kept asking questions. "Tell me quickly, what did you experience in the demonic dimension? Did you cause a commotion in the demonic dimension? I heard that you subdued the demon prince and princess. How did you do it? And how did you escape from the demonic dimension?" Suyu laughed as he listened, and roughly explained his trip in the demonic dimension. Sheng Yuanxin's eyes lit up as if she was listening to a legendary story. Every time she reached a wonderful part, she couldn't help but feel excited and worried for Suyu. When she heard that Suyu had turned danger into safety with his strategy, she couldn't help but applaud. Sheng Deity and Sword Deity also listened with great interest and were extremely engrossed. Suyu's encounter in the demonic dimension was really full of danger. One wrong step and he would be doomed eternally. Suyu had no one to rely on, and with his own strength, he turned the demonic dimension upside down. After listening, the three of them breathed a sigh of relief. It was wonderful, several times more wonderful than a fictional story. Well, that's enough. It's time to finalize the alliance between the Eastern and Western alliances, Suyu said. Sheng Deity and Sword Deity were delighted. The day they had been waiting for had finally come. The alliance between the two sides had a foundation of half a year, and the points of discussion had already been discussed and perfected, but it was deliberately obstructed by Gongsun Deity. Now that the two sides hit it off, the agreement of the alliance was quickly reached. The two sides would form an anti-demon alliance, integrate their forces, and gather in one place. As for who would give orders in the anti-demon alliance, each of the two alliances would nominate a person to be in charge. Of course, Suyu took a step back and decided to move the entire Western Alliance to join the Eastern Alliance. Such a big project would inevitably cause dissatisfaction among the Western Alliance gods. However, it was extremely necessary. The Western Alliance was too close to the demonic dimension. If the demonic dimension no longer kept them in captivity and chose to go all out, the Western Alliance would perish in less than a day. Therefore, no matter who objected, this place must be moved. After some discussion, the two sides signed an alliance contract. Sheng Deity and Sword Deity's wish had been fulfilled, and they could not help but be overjoyed. So he was also a little relieved. The alliance of the two alliances was the most important thing in the fight against the demons. This step was preliminarily completed. While feeling relaxed, Suyu just remembered something, and his face was a little cold. Sheng Deity, Sword Deity, there is one thing I want to ask you. My old friends in the Jojo Cavern world, Gongsun Deity and his daughter, who made the decision to send them back to the Western Alliance. Sheng Deity and Sword Deity's faces suddenly froze, and their expressions suddenly became ugly. They had almost forgotten Suyu's current situation in the Eastern Alliance. Seeing that the two of them wanted to say something, Suyu said lightly, "Do you two think that with a paper contract, there's no need to worry?" Even saying this showed Suyu's dissatisfaction with their attitude. Sheng Deity and Sword Deity did not dare to hide it anymore. In a low voice, they said, "It was the Dakini who ordered it. It's that ignorant virgin goddess." Suyu's eyes were cold. In fact, he had already guessed it. After confirming that it was her, he could not help but feel murderous. Staring at their evasive expressions, Suyu said coldly, "What else did she do?" "Everything related to me. Say it all. Don't hesitate. You should know my temper. Deceiving me will only make the situation worse." Sheng Deity smiled bitterly. The worst situation had happened. Suyu not only came back alive, but also became the powerful Western Alliance master. He could control the fate of the Eastern Alliance with a single thought. "Hey, Feather Deity, I hope you can calm down after hearing this. The Dakini did do a lot of things against you. If we say it, I hope you will be mentally prepared." Sheng Deity sighed deeply. Chapter 1283. For this Dakini, Suyu did not hate her very much, but he did not like her very much. She could be kind to her enemies, but harsh to her own people. Only in a peaceful environment would such a wonderful Virgin Mary be born. If she was just an ordinary person, such a mentality would only harm herself. The terrible thing was that she was the spiritual leader of the Great Eastern Alliance. The Shang deity sighed. Since we returned from the world of divine remains, a series of changes have taken place in the Great Eastern Alliance. The first is to reorganize the power, follow the example of the Great Western Alliance, change the loose system of the Great Eastern Alliance, and establish a centralized general alliance called the Eastern Deity Temple. The Dakini will be the temple master, and the merchant god and I will be the deputy temple masters. Then, according to the ranking, 10 hall masters will be set up. This model is almost exactly the same as the Great Western Alliance. Glancing at Su Yu, the Shang deity said, "In this change, the Dakini will expel the families of the deities who have not returned for 100 years from their travel from the alliance of 100 deities." Hearing this, Su Yu shouted coldly, "Nonsense! Even though the deities have been traveling for a long time and have not returned for 100 years, all their resources remain in the alliance. If they expel the alliance like this, wouldn't they divide the power in their hands? What is the fate of the expelled deity families?" So he said coldly, "Either they are attacked and killed by the hostile deity families, or they surrender to another deity family and get protection as slaves. Or they are sent to escape from the Great Eastern Alliance and hide in the abandoned cavern world in the Xing River." Sure enough, an expelled family, without the protection of the alliance and the protection of the deities in the family, would not be a piece of fat meat in everyone's eyes. If they did not escape, the family would inevitably decline or even be exterminated. What was more terrible was that if the deities of these families did not die and suddenly return from their travels, only to find that the forces they had worked so hard to build had been reduced to such a state, what would the deity do? Continue to work for the Great Eastern Alliance? What a joke. Not being an enemy of the Great Eastern Alliance was already benevolent. This move of a Dakini was simply self-mutilation. What about the Crane deity's family? Su Yu asked. He didn't even need to think to know the fate of the Crane deity's cavern world. The Shang deity said helplessly, "Because you fell into the devil realm and were judged to be dead, the Crane deity's cavern world was confiscated and became the public property of the Eastern Deity Hall. The clansmen of the Crane deity's family were expelled from the alliance. Fortunately, the son of the merchant god, Yang Tai, and the son of the instrument god, Wang Yunxian, protected them from the fate of the deity's family." Yang Tai and Wang Yunxian? Su Yu remembered this favor. Did Dakini do anything else? The Shang deity nodded. There's also the investigation of the wanted criminals of the Great Western Alliance. Gongsun and his daughter were sent back to the Great Western Alliance because of this. What do you mean by repatriation? The Gongsun father and daughter weren't qualified to be on the deportation list at all. Dakini had forced them onto the list. If she wasn't targeting Su Yu, why would the dignified Dakini pay attention to insignificant people like the Gongsun father and daughter? What else? Also, the entire alliance is cleaning up unknown forces. Among them, Ghost Deity's son, Gue Wuing, is suspected of forming an illegal force and spying on the secrets of the Great Eastern Alliance. Ghost Prison's Great Emperor? Su Yu's eyes were filled with cold light. He was the one who asked the Ghost Prison's Great Emperor to lead the intelligence personnel that he had secretly trained and continue to search for information. Even he was arrested. All the so-called measures were related to Su Yu. They were obviously targeting him. This made Su Yu's killing intent rise. He couldn't help but wonder why Dakini was targeting him like this. Was there some kind of deep hatred between them? So, I have to go back to the Great Eastern Alliance in person? Hearing this, the Shang deity and the Sword deity were nervous at the same time. Now Su Yu's status was respected, and every move he made represented the will of the Great Western Alliance. Did he go to the Great Eastern Alliance this time to start a war? Thinking of this, both of them smiled bitterly. The Shang deity felt even more ashamed and said, "I failed to stop it from happening. I am responsible." "Of course you are responsible." Su Yu stared at the two of them. Hearing this, the Shang deity and the Sword deity stiffened and looked embarrassed. They were just being polite. How could they really feel that they were responsible? You know that Dakini's decision will cause endless harm. As the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance, why didn't you stop it? If 1 can't stop it, then 10. If 10 can't stop it, then 20. Suyu reprimanded coldly. His sharp eyes clearly saw the disapproval of the Shang deity and the sword deity. They thought it was not his fault. A loose alliance without a strong system. You have so many deities, but you allowed an ignorant woman to issue an unreasonable order. Are you still qualified to be the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance? The Shang deity and the sword deity still did not care and looked indifferent. Ha! Ha! Did you think that the Dakini would only bring harm to the powerless deity families and would never harm you? That's why you didn't care, right? So you sneered. How naive. From a loose organization to a centralized organization in an instant. Do you think changing the name of the Great Eastern Alliance to the Eastern Temple can solve the problem? So you said, the centralization of power will inevitably cause many deities to be dissatisfied because they have lost the power to control a cavern world. They will definitely resent Dakini for taking away their power. There's only one way to suppress resentment, and that is to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Frighten them with bloody means. So you sneered. Who do you think will be the first to be suppressed by Dakini? Ordinary deities will not work. The only one who can be deterred. Who do you think is the most likely? Of course, it is the 2 deputy temple masters. The Shang deity's heart skipped a beat, and she said, You are just guessing. Thou would like to ask, why did Dakini, who never intended to form an alliance, suddenly order you to become an emissary and leave the Great Eastern Alliance? Of course, it is to make things easier. So you said, if I am not mistaken, your Shang deity family has almost been eradicated. The Shang deity suddenly stood up, her eyes flashing with shock. Speaking of which, the family had not communicated with her for a long time. She only thought that the alliance was peaceful and had nothing important to do. However, thinking about it carefully, how could the Great Eastern Alliance be peaceful when it was undergoing drastic reforms? The people had not communicated for half a year. Perhaps, as Suyu said, they could not communicate. Humph. Go and reflect on it. Suyu waved his hand. Sheng Yuanxin nodded gratefully at Suyu. She was also disappointed with the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance. No matter what the Dakini did, due to her absolute strength, as long as it did not harm her, she would be indifferent to it. Little did they know that the Dakini was destroying the Great Eastern Alliance step by step. When they left, his eyes turned cold. He did not hate the deities of the Great Eastern Alliance who did nothing. They were not related to Suyu, so why should they save his people? However, he was disappointed with the Great Eastern Alliance. A group of rotten wood corroded by peace, and they have become frogs in warm water, but they do not know anything. Suyu shook his head. It seems that the Great Eastern Alliance really needs to go back. Suyu murmured. It just so happened that the entire Great Western Alliance was migrating, so he could lead the Great Western Alliance directly to the Great Eastern Alliance. As for the Dakini, Suyu felt that she should not be left alive. He did not believe that a deity who was in a high position was really a Virgin Mary who was forgiving to her enemies. If that was the case, she would have died hundreds of times. The only explanation was that the Dakini had other intentions. As he was thinking, Suyu suddenly pressed his chest, and there was a touch of surprise between his eyebrows. What's going on? His chest was hot for no reason, and when he pulled up his clothes, his face changed. The curse of the Central Prefecture's king, which was sealed by the tree goddess, broke through the cover of the seal and emitted a trace of special demonic energy. Swish! At this time, the tree goddess sensed the abnormality and flashed out. When she saw Suyu's situation, she was also surprised. How could this be? The seal that I reinforced was actually broken. The curse has been in a state of seal. Why did it suddenly become violent? The tree goddess looked solemn. The curse is summoning someone, and it is a deity who is far better than me. Otherwise, it would be impossible to trigger the curse in the air. Chapter 1284. Suyu's eyes flickered slightly. The tree goddess was extremely worried. His strength is far above mine, which means that he is at least equivalent to the 6th princess. Who could it be? No matter who it is, but... Suyu slowly got up, his expression gradually turning serious. The demon pursuers have finally arrived. He had taken away the 4 princes and princesses of the demon world, making it impossible for the giant of the bitter sea to retrieve these illusionary reincarnations, hindering the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons. It was completely expected that he would be hunted by the demon world. However, they came faster than expected. In just 2 or 3 months, they had caught up. The most unexpected thing was that they had found Su Yu's location so quickly. It was really unusual. Who is the father of the Central Prefecture's king? Su Yu murmured. After a moment of contemplation, Su Yu said, "It's time to speed up and migrate as a whole. It's not wise to stay on the side of the demon world for long." "Shimin Jian, Lin Lang Fan, come in," Su Yu said. Su Yu informed them of the news of the demon pursuers. Shimin Jian and Lin Lang Fan were also quite surprised. "Alliance Master, what do you think we should do?" "First, send the strong deities to investigate. Aren't there a group of deities waiting to atone for their crimes? Order them to go and find out about the enemy. If they are meritorious, everything in the past can be erased. Second, speed up the overall migration of the Great Western Alliance. Time waits for no one. After I messed up the demon world, no one can predict what will happen next. This place is already extremely unsafe." Shimin Jian said in a low voice, "There is no problem with the first point, but I'm afraid the second point needs further discussion." "Speak," Su Yu asked. Shimin Jian said, "The Great Western Alliance's perseverance has been in the demon world for millions of years. Not only are they used to this place, but more importantly, this place is the foundation of the Great Western Alliance. More than 100 cavern worlds separated from the foundation is not something that can be done overnight." Su Yu understood this point. Just like the world of divine remains, it relied on a broken Emperor-based Saint artifact, the 9 Demons' God Sealing Ring. Otherwise, with the power of the Star River, the cavern worlds would be blown away in the starry sky, unable to be fixed in one place, let alone connect the 9 cavern worlds into one. The Great Eastern Alliance was fixed somewhere in the starry sky. Most likely, it was under the Alliance and had something to rely on. It was conceivable that a broken Emperor-based Saint artifact was needed to bear the weight of 9 cavern worlds. Therefore, it must be extraordinary to bear the weight of hundreds of cavern worlds of the Eastern Alliance and the Western Alliance. This was the foundation that Shimin Jian was talking about. These reserves might not be very powerful, but they had a unique use for fixing the starry sky. It was still too early for Su Yu to take control of the Alliance, and he had yet to fully grasp the legacy of the Alliance Masters. Hence, he had yet to see what the so-called heritage of the Great Western Alliance was. However, the fact that the Great Western Alliance was willing to take the risk of fighting the demonic realm at close range and refused to leave showed that it was difficult to find a second such foundation in the galaxy. There's no need to doubt my words. The strength of the demonic world is beyond your imagination. Mobilize all the deities, abandon whatever you can, leave this place, and meet up with the Great Eastern Alliance. The two of them left the Alliance Master's residence with bitter smiles on their faces. Isn't the Alliance Master a little too afraid of the demon world? Shimin Jian couldn't help but ask. After all, it was an alliance that had fought against the demon world for millions of years. Before Su Yu's arrival, they had always believed that the strength of the Great Western Alliance and the demon race was on par. Although Su Yu had told them about his experiences in the demon world, they had not witnessed it with their own eyes. Hence, they were still holding out hope. Lin Lang Fan frowned. Judging from the Alliance Master's character, he is by no means a timid person. To make him so afraid, I think we should speed up our departure from the Foundation and head for the Great Eastern Alliance. Shimin Jian nodded. He still had some doubts in his heart. Before witnessing the true strength of the demon world, he found it hard to believe Su Yu's story of wolves rearing sheep in a pen. They carried out Su Yu's orders. 6 god-level experts, leading dozens of prospective gods, marched in the direction of the demonic realm in a mighty manner. An investigation operation of such a scale was very rare in the history of the Great Western Alliance. Some of the more sensitive creatures sensed that something was amiss. Furthermore, with Shimin Jian and Lin Lang Fan as representatives, they sped up the speed of the cavern world's departure, which made people even more nervous. Could something big be about to happen? In the depths of the cold and dark starry sky, a mass of blood-red, demonic cloud floated across the starry sky quietly with a bloody glow. In the bloody glow, a dying divine soul was firmly bound by the demonic cloud. His divine body was nowhere to be seen, and so was his godly spirit. If any deity of the Great Western Alliance were here, they would recognize that this dying divine soul was none other than the former Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance, Luo Huan. Back then, he had clamored viciously, saying that he would make a comeback one day. In the end, he had fallen to such a state. Lord Commander, we are 5 days away from the Great Western Alliance. An extremely imposing demonic god stood coldly at the head of the demonic cloud. Behind him, the demonic gods were as silent as cicadas in winter, not saying a word. Yes, I've already sensed the breath of the creature that escaped from the demon world. Unless someone stronger than me strikes, he will not be able to escape my senses, the imposing demonic god said slowly. He looked down at the bound Luo Huan's divine soul and said indifferently, "He is no longer useful. I will reward him to you." Upon hearing this, the many demonic gods behind him revealed greedy eyes. They opened their bloody mouths and were ready to pounce forward and devour the divine soul. Luo Huan was scared out of his wits. "Wait, Lord Demon World, I am still useful. As the Alliance Master of the Great Western Alliance, I have mastered many useful things." Luo Huan looked at the imposing demonic god in front of him and could not help but shudder. Although it had been 10 days since he met him, he would never forget the power of this demonic god for the rest of his life. From the beginning to the end, he only used one hand to suppress him, the strongest man in the Great Western Alliance, crush his body, and devour his godly spirit. The ability that made Luo Huan despair still made him tremble when he thought about it. Before meeting him, Luo Huan did not believe that such a powerful and terrible person still existed in the world. His mind was completely crushed by the appearance of this demonic god. He finally believed that Su Yu's words were true. The demon world was strong, so strong that it only treated the creatures of the Star River like sheep in a pen. From the conversation of these demonic gods, Luo Huan learned that this demonic god was called the demonic god of 6 paths. He was the strongest man below the Demon Emperor, as Su Yu had mentioned. Your position as the Alliance Master has been taken away. What else can you do? The demonic god of 6 paths said indifferently. Originally, they could not find Su Yu because the aura of the 4 princes and princesses was concealed by some unknown method, so they could not sense the specific location. How could they find Su Yu in the vast Star River? However, Luo Huan, who was captured, told them an important piece of news. A strong man who escaped from the demon world had appeared in the Great Western Alliance. The demonic god of 6 paths sacrificed his divine blood and tried to provoke the curse left by the Central Prefecture's king in the direction of the Great Western Alliance. As a result, the curse was triggered and Su Yu was found. Because of this, they identified the direction and went straight to Su Yu. Luo Huan had contributed a lot to all of this. Luo Huan said immediately, "I know a lot of ancient books and records, which have been passed down from generation to generation in the Great Western Alliance. Only I, the Alliance Master, know them. If you want to know ancient books and records?" The demonic god of 6 paths shook his head indifferently. Behind the demonic god of 6 paths, a pretty demonic god's maid sneered and said the history of the demonic realm has been recorded for millions of years. What's the broken records of the creatures in the Star River? If Su Yu were here, he would definitely recognize this female servant. She was the first servant of Princess Yun Yin, Cauldron, a human. The existence of the demon dimension was much more ancient than the creatures of the Star River. At least in terms of historical records, the demon dimension was definitely more complete than the creatures of the Star River. Cold sweat dripped down Luo Huan's forehead. All of a sudden, an idea occurred to him. Wait, as the Alliance Master, I know a lot about the foundation of the Great Western Alliance. I believe this should be able to serve the lords of the demon dimension, right? Kalen frowned. The foundation of the Great Western Alliance. This was recorded in the history of the demon dimension. However, only the demon emperors of each generation knew the details. The ordinary creatures of the demon dimension didn't know about it. The foundation is very mysterious. Not only can it withstand the pressure of hundreds of cavern worlds, but it also has extremely powerful power. If it is used properly, no one in the Star River will be able to withstand its power. Kalen's face turned cold. Are you trying to scare us just to save your life? If the Great Western Alliance really had such a powerful foundation, it would have destroyed the demon dimension long ago. Moreover, in the history of the Great Western Alliance, there were several times when the demon dimension was almost annihilated, but I have never seen you use it. Luo Huan knew he believed her when he heard her tone. He said, "That's why I said it must be used properly." In fact, Luo Huan didn't know how to use the power of the foundation. He was just trying to scare them to save his life. Kalen cast an inquiring look at the demonic god of 6 paths. The demonic god of 6 paths' eyes flickered, and he said calmly, "Spare his life for now." Luo Huan heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with hatred as he thought to himself, "Silver God, it was you who put me in this situation. I want you to end up like me, like a ghost." He didn't dare to resent the tyrannical demonic god of 6 paths, so he could only vent his anger on Suyu. In a house in the Great Western Alliance, Gong Sunya, Gong Sun Wuxia, and Luo Fei were extremely grateful. "Benefactor, you saved my life again." Gong Sunya was grateful and guilty. "I didn't listen to you, Benefactor, and fell into your trap. I almost caused you to be doomed eternally." Suyu waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. Luo Huan is a schemer. If he wants to harm you, it will be difficult for you to defend yourself. You should leave the Great Western Alliance and find a remote place far away from the Demon Dimension and the Eastern and Western Alliances. Live in peace," Suyu said. He made this decision so that they could live in peace after going through so many hardships. They didn't have to participate in the war between the Xing River and the Demon Dimension. He had already saved Gong Sunya twice. The first time, Suyu had deceived them with a great magical power, but the second time, Gong Sunya's body and soul were destroyed. If he appeared in front of outsiders again, Suyu's ability to bring the dead back to life would be exposed. Therefore, the family had to leave the Great Western Alliance. "I don't want to. I want to be with Brother Suyu." Gong Sun Wuxia pursed her lips and hugged Suyu's arm. Suyu shook his head. "If I am still alive in 10 years, you can come to me again. Now, leave the demon dimension quickly. This is not a place for you to stay. You deity, send them away." "Wait." This time it was Luo Fei. He hesitated a little and took out a snow-white fishing rod from the space ring. "Thank you, Benefactor, for saving me several times. Luo Fei can't repay you. This fishing rod is for you." Suyu stared at the fishing rod and felt a little familiar. He said, "What is this?" "I accidentally found it in a relic of the Xing River. It was held in the hands of a deity whose corpse had not decayed for millions of years." A corpse that had not decayed for millions of years? Logically speaking, it was impossible, unless it was like the first demon emperor who cultivated the curse of reincarnation of 10,000 demons to nourish his clone. The only explanation was that the corpse that had existed for millions of years must have been a peerless figure when it was alive. So you couldn't help but think of the records in the ancient books. In the past, there were many overlords in the Xing River. Chapter 1285. Even my father doesn't know about it. I've kept it a secret until now, Luo Fei said. I don't know about the function of this thing, but I use it to fish up an undead spiritual herb from the heaven pool of the Great Western Alliance. The undead spiritual herb was the one that kept Gong Sun Wuxia at the age of 10 forever. As far as Suyu knew, there was no record of the undead spiritual herb growing in the Star River. Luo Fei feeding the herb to the dead Gong Sun Wuxia could be explained. However, where was the heaven pool? Was there such a place in the Great Western Alliance? Suyu thought about it and returned the fishing rod. It's too precious. I can't accept it. Luo Fei smiled. It's because it's precious that I chose to give it to you. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to live in peace after leaving the Great Western Alliance. Gongsun also said, "This is a token of our gratitude. I hope you don't mind." "All right, thank you." Suyu cupped his fists at them. "You deity, please send them away." The Yu deity took out a flying boat and sent them away from the Alliance into the boundless Star River. "Take care of yourself on behalf of the Alliance Master," the Yu deity said. Gongsun Wushia's eyes were filled with tears. "Why didn't he let me stay? I didn't do anything wrong." The Yu deity smiled gently. "He didn't let you stay for your own good. The Alliance Master is busy with something important and can't take care of you. If he didn't care about you, he wouldn't have sent you away. That's all I have to say. Take care." In the Alliance Master's mansion, Suyu sighed silently. He was a little disappointed. Familiar faces were disappearing from his life, one by one. He didn't even know if he would see them again in this life. "When can I stand at the peak of the world and stop sending away people who are close to me?" Suyu's helpless and lonely voice echoed in the empty hall. Boom! There was a loud noise, and the entire Great Western Alliance trembled violently. It was as if something huge had broken away from the Alliance. Suyu glanced around and found the glittering family was the first to move their cavern world out of the Alliance. Suyu's body flashed with five-colored brilliance as he teleported to the sky above the Linlin cavern world. Looking down from above, the glittering family cavern world was built on a milky white lake. Could this be the foundation of the Great Western Alliance? Suyu wondered. Looking at Shimon's cavern world, which was almost out of the cavern world, he could faintly see the milky white surface of the lake below. That's interesting. I wonder what the Great Western Alliance is relying on. Suyu was intrigued. He returned to the Alliance Master's manor and continued to read the ancient books inherited by the previous Alliance Masters. A few days later, Suyu finally learned the information about the Great Western Alliance from an ancient book. Heaven Lake? Isn't this the Heaven Lake where Luo Fei fished up the undead spiritual herb? Suyu asked in surprise. Could it be that the Heaven Lake that Luo Fei mentioned was the foundation of the Great Western Alliance, a milky white lake? The origin of the Heaven Lake could not be recorded in history because this milky white lake had existed before the establishment of the Great Western Alliance. Strangely, even though it was surrounded by water from the Milky Way, no matter how much water from the Milky Way flowed into the lake, it did not flood the lake. Even after so many years, the water level of the lake did not increase. It was as if there was a bottomless pit at the bottom of the lake, devouring all the starry river water that entered it. That was why the cavern world was built on top of the lake. I didn't expect to be able to fish from the lake. Luo Fei found something interesting that was not even recorded in the ancient books, Suyu said with a smile. After reading the information related to the Heaven Lake, Suyu held a bronze-colored ancient book in his hand with great interest. This ancient book was dedicated to introducing the Heaven Lake. Most of Suyu's understanding of the Heaven Lake came from this ancient book. There was one page that Suyu was very concerned about. This page had somehow been torn off by someone. Suyu would not have cared too much about it, but the scent left behind by the person who tore off the page made Suyu take notice. If he was not mistaken, that scent belonged to Luo Huan. Why did he tear off this page? What was written on it that made Luo Huan tear it off? There were no less than 100 Alliance Masters in the Great Western Alliance. Why was Luo Huan the only one who tore it off? Intuition told Suyu that the page that Luo Huan tore off might be extremely important, and he did not want Shimin Jian, who was fiercely competing with him, to see it. After pondering for a moment, Suyu's eyes emitted a three-colored ray of light, shining on the broken page. Time, space, and soul, the three main elements of power that made up the world, fused into a different space. Time flowed back, and a small area appeared on the broken page. When time flowed back to 3 months ago, a scene suddenly appeared. A hand fiercely tore through the page, completely tearing it off. At the same time, it revealed its owner. Who else could it be but Luo Huan? Time flowed back again, and Suyu finally saw the content of the torn page clearly. Every word and sentence was very clear. He memorized all the content in an instant because when the time was up, the different space was destroyed. Returning to reality, Suyu's eyes were filled with shock. Is there such a terrible power hidden in the Heaven Lake? That page recorded an extremely terrible event, which happened not long after the Great Western Alliance settled here. One day, the Heaven Lake rolled, and a destructive force shot out from it. It went straight to the demon world, penetrated it, and even seriously injured the giant of the Bitter Sea. This happened millions of years ago, and it was recorded in detail on this page. It was so long ago that almost no one knew that a destructive force had been shot out from the Heaven Lake. Only those who had flipped through this page knew. Humph, this Luo Huan is very careful, erasing such an important record to prevent Shimenjian from harming him. So you snorted lightly. If Luo Huan had not done this, so you might not have cared about this page. Unfortunately, it was discovered by Su Yu. What was known was that some kind of terrible power was hidden in the Heaven Lake, but how to open it was unknown. It is necessary to investigate the Heaven Lake, so you murmured and quickly went to the Heaven Lake. A few days later, several deities moved their cavern worlds, revealing a large part of the Heaven Lake. So you teleported to the side of the Heaven Lake and fixed his eyes on it. According to the records, the Heaven Lake looked like water, but creatures could not touch it. Once they fell into it, there was no record of them ever returning. Even if non-living things were put into the Heaven Lake, they would be sucked away by an inexplicable force. With a thought, an abandoned treasure appeared in Su Yu's right hand. He used a touch of the mortal fairy's strength to entangle the treasure and slowly put it into the Heaven Lake. As a result, as soon as it touched the Heaven Lake, the treasure seemed to be entangled by some extremely strong sucking force and sank suddenly. What was even more shocking was that the sucking force had an effect on Su Yu along with the mortal fairy's strength. Su Yu's eyes narrowed, and he decisively cut off the connection so that he was not affected just now. What an amazing sucking force. Su Yu was secretly surprised. Then, Su Yu tried to throw a few things, without exception. The water of the Heaven Lake could not be touched at all. Even the slightest touch would be sucked away. But how did Luo Fei catch something from the Heaven Lake? With a thought, a snow-white fishing rod appeared in Su Yu's left hand. The fishing rod was warm and had a scent that Su Yu was familiar with. A slender fishing line and a fish hook were tied to the fishing rod. After carefully sensing it, Su Yu did not feel anything special about the fishing rod. Let's try it. Su Yu held the fishing rod in his hand, threw the fishing line forward, and it fell into the Heaven Lake. He was ready to throw the fishing rod at any time to avoid being affected. However, the strange thing was that the fishing line fell calmly into the Heaven Lake and was not sucked in. What the hell is this fishing rod? Su Yu was surprised. It was recorded on that page that all the creatures who tried to touch the Heaven Lake in the past, whether they were ordinary creatures or peerless masters, were all sucked in together with their treasures without exception. But this fishing rod was an exception. Curious, so you tried to shake the fishing rod and accidentally hooked up a broken short sword. After trying several times, so you kept hooking up strange objects. Although they were all ordinary things, so you gradually had many speculations about the Heaven Lake in his mind. Oh, it seems that there is a great discovery. Su Yu's eyes were filled with excitement. If his guess was correct, the bottom of the Heaven Lake must hide secrets that involve the entire Xing River for millions of years, including the secrets of the glorious era of the past, which was destroyed overnight. Putting away the fishing rod, Su Yu's eyes lit up. At this moment, suddenly, the sky above a cavern world was filled with divine blood. A deity had fallen. Su Yu's eyes narrowed. Are they here? Swish! Shimenjian and Linlang Fan teleported in front of Su Yu and said in shock, Alliance Master, it's the deities who went to investigate in the direction of the demonic dimension. One of them has been destroyed. Shimenjian's voice had just trailed off when suddenly blood rained down from another cavern world. How could this be? 2 deities have fallen in a row? Linlang Fan was shocked. However, what shocked them even more was that a 3rd deity had fallen in quick succession. The 3rd. Shimenjian was shocked. 6 deities and dozens of prospective deities. Such a powerful combination had killed 3 deities in a short period of time. Then, the 4th and the 5th. Finally, Su Yu was shaken. Su Yu was not surprised that 5 deities had been killed in a short period of time. He was not surprised that the demonic dimension was full of experts. What was strange was that none of the 5 of them had had time to send message. Even if the first prince killed all 5 of them at the same time, there was no guarantee that he could stop them from sending a message. What level of holy magic hall deities did the demonic dimension send? Could it be a general? Suyu was bewildered. Beep beep. All of a sudden, a jade pendant on Suyu's waist flickered rapidly. It was a jade pendant that could transmit images from extremely far away. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were delighted. Finally, one of them has escaped. Quick, let's see what message he has found. Suyu said solemnly, I'm afraid this message might not have been sent by that deity, but he crushed the jade pendant, and a clear image appeared before his eyes. However, it was not that deity who had appeared. Instead, it was an extremely majestic, dark red demonic god. His body was densely covered with strange runes, giving off a ferocious and barbaric vibe. His eyes were indifferent and extraordinary. Beneath his feet, a deity was being trampled. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not budge. The dark red demonic god looked over dispassionately and said, Sea-Watch City Master, long time no see. I am here. Pow! The image shattered. Shortly after, divine blood rained down. The 6th deity had perished. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were people who had seen much of the world. However, when they looked at the dark red demonic god, they felt a chill run down their spines. They did not dare to move. It felt like a mortal standing in front of a deity. Who is that? Shimin Jian felt a chill run down his spine. He finally believed Suyu's words. The demonic dimension had terrifying powers that had never been revealed before. That terrifying demonic god was one of them. Chapter 1286. He had expected that the powerhouses of the demon realm would hunt them down, but he didn't expect that it would be the demonic god of 6 paths. With his strength, who in the galaxy could be a match for him? Apart from the god of death, no one had the confidence to contend against him. The sudden change of events caused Suyu's heart to sink to the bottom. According to the message, the place where they met was less than 2 days away from the Great Western Alliance. 2 days. Where could he find the god of death? Even if they found him, how could they convince the god of death to help them fight against the demonic god of 6 paths? There was dead silence in the hall. The demonic god of 6 paths gave Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan a terrifying impression. It was especially so for Shimin Jian. Before this, he had suspected that Suyu was being overly cautious by moving in such a hurry. However, after seeing the image of the demonic god of 6 paths with his own eyes, Shimin Jian knew that everything Suyu had said was true. The demon world possessed a terrifying power that far surpassed theirs. The demonic god of 6 paths alone was not something that the Great Western Alliance could resist. Moreover, the demonic god of 6 paths was not alone. Behind him, 10 demon gods with extremely powerful auras could be vaguely seen. A few of them were not any weaker than the deities of the 10 great anti-demon families. This is the true power of the demon world. Shimin Jian swallowed his saliva, and a sense of helplessness rose in his heart. Suyu shook his head. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There were also hundreds of demon gods from the Holy Magic Hall who had yet to appear, as well as the giant of the Bitter Sea who had yet to make a move against the outside world. Shimin Jian's face was pale. Swish, swish, swish. 6 gods had fallen one after another. This was second only to the previous purge. All the gods were alarmed and rushed to the Alliance Master's residence. Well, it turns out that Shimin Deity and Glittering Deity have arrived first. What's going on? 6 deities have fallen. Could it be that Alliance Master, Su, has decided to purge them again? Shoo, don't speak. Can't you see that Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan don't look too good? Hey, yeah, why does Shimin Jian's expression look like he's in despair? The 100 gods discussed among themselves as their gazes swept across the 3 of them. They were all guessing if their ruthless Alliance Master had done something again. Be quiet, Suyu said expressionlessly. The 100 gods quickly quietened down and waited quietly for the Alliance leader to explain the cause of death of the 6 gods. I'm sorry to inform everyone that the Great Western Alliance is facing an unprecedented crisis. Suyu's face was indescribably serious. At this point, there were some things in the demon world that could no longer be concealed. Alliance Master, the Great Western Alliance has weathered through countless storms and disasters. Is there anything we can't overcome? That's right, Alliance Master. We will defend the Great Western Alliance with our lives. Suyu waved his hand to silence them and said in a low voice, "The crises that the Great Western Alliance has experienced in the past cannot be compared to the one we are facing now." With a flick of his sleeve, the scene from before appeared before everyone's eyes once more. The hundreds of deities clearly saw a dark red demonic god stepping on a deity of the Great Western Alliance with one foot, rendering him immobile. The dark red demonic god emitted a destructive aura, causing the confident gods to freeze in place. Bang bang, bang bang. The scene gradually quietened down. No, it was completely silent. The sound of hearts beating violently entered everyone's ears. Even the strong-willed gods were shaken by the sight of the dark red demon god, and fear appeared on their faces. Those who were not strong-willed shivered and almost collapsed to the ground. They had been fighting against demons all their lives and had never seen such a terrifying demon god. Just a mere image was enough to make them feel fear from the depths of their souls. It was as if they were on the same food chain, and the other party was a creature that was higher than them. Looking at the reaction of the deities, Suyu was not surprised at all. Even Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were shocked by the horror of the demonic god of six paths, let alone the rest of them. They had been defeated before the war had even begun. They could not be counted on anymore. Moreover, an existence at the level of the demonic god of six paths was not something they could handle. Now, do you need me to reiterate the relocation of the Great Western Alliance? Suyu asked calmly. Before this, the 100 deities nominally obeyed, but in fact they were slacking off. They resented the relocation and were extremely dissatisfied with it, so they delayed it in every way possible. However, the continuous fall of the 6 deities and the terrifying demonic shadow finally stimulated their nerves. How could they still have the slightest doubt? You only have 2 days to relocate. Leave all unnecessary things, even precious resources, and leave the Heaven Pool immediately. All the cavern worlds that have left the Heaven Pool set off for the Great Eastern Alliance without stopping. Swish, swish, swish. Many of the deities turned pale and returned to the cavern worlds they had created, moving quickly. Some of the deities who had been obedient and had already left the Heaven Pool looked relieved. One after another, they brought their cavern worlds and gathered in the direction of the Great Eastern Alliance, according to Suyu's order. The deities who had been slacking off were in a flurry. All of them wished that they had been born with a pair of hands and feet. When they returned to the cavern worlds, they shouted at their clansmen to stop the relocation. The relocation, which had been progressing slowly, was suddenly in full swing. Countless cavern worlds abandoned their important resources and forcibly left the Heaven Pool, fleeing toward the Great Eastern Alliance at the cost of their vitality. In just one day, more than 50 cavern worlds had left, leaving behind a mess of resources. Some deities even made up their minds and refined their cavern worlds into godly spirits before fleeing. In this way, the cavern worlds that they had painstakingly created were destroyed in an instant. More than half of the remaining 50 deities had left. They should be able to leave completely within a day. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan said, "Alliance Master, you go first." "No, I will stay," Suyu said. "No, the demonic god of 6 paths came for you. If you don't leave, how can you fight them?" Linlang Fan said anxiously. Now, Suyu is the spiritual leader of the Great Western Alliance. If he died, the Great Western Alliance would fall into internal strife. Even if the demons didn't attack, they would kill each other and decline rapidly. "It is precisely because he came for me that he can't leave with you," Suyu said solemnly. Only when Suyu attracted the firepower could they have time to escape. Otherwise, few of them could escape successfully. "Shimin Jian, Linlang Fan, you should leave as soon as possible. This is an unfinished feud between me and the demonic dimension," Suyu said. How could Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan agree? "If our lives are exchanged for your sacrifice, What is the point of our existence? No matter how far we escape, we will inevitably die in the future, Shimin Jian said. Suyu shook his head. No, your existence is not to fight against the likes of the demonic god of six paths, but to fight against the deities of the holy magic hall. No matter how strong the demonic god of six paths is, he is only one person. He can't destroy the entire galaxy. Only the deities of the Great Western Alliance and the Great Eastern Alliance have the power to do so. Just like when both sides fight, no matter how strong the general is, he can't affect the outcome of the war. What really affects him is the millions of soldiers under him. Preserve your strength so that you can fight against the invasion of the demonic dimension in the future. If you still regard me as the Alliance Master, then go. Shimin Jian and Linlang Fan were moved. At the moment of life and death, the Alliance Master had chosen to sacrifice himself to protect them. The deities who were in the midst of migrating stopped one after another, stunned. But if you stay, Alliance Master, aren't you courting death? Shimin Jian asked. He was completely convinced by Suyu. Suyu's expression was calm and composed. I may not die. This is the birthplace of the Great Western Alliance. I will fight to the death with the strongest of the demonic dimension here. All of you leave immediately. I can feel that they're almost here. Suyu touched his chest. The curse was gradually heating up, and the seal of the tree goddess was non-existent. Shimin Jian, Linlang Fan, and the 50 deities bowed to him in unison. The bow was accompanied by the rumbling of thunder, as if it had affected some kind of existence in the unseen world. Only the great path of heaven and earth was qualified to receive the bow of the deities. Suyu accepted it calmly, which naturally triggered a celestial phenomenon. Vaguely, the 10,000-foot-tall virtual shadow of the deity behind Suyu became much more solid. His jet-black hair fluttered in the wind, and his disdainful posture was worthy of worship. At the same time, Suyu was surprised to find that his godly spirit had suddenly expanded a fold during the worship of the deities. The godly spirit of an early-stage prospective deity had skyrocketed to the level of a middle-stage prospective deity. What's going on? Suyu was shocked. Logically speaking, there were only two ways to increase the godly spirit. The first way was to convert the mortal fairy's strength in his body over a long period of time and convert it into divine energy. The divine energy would then slowly nourish the godly spirit. The second way was to deprive others of their pure, godly spirit, but the effect was minimal. Only 10% of the original godly spirit could be absorbed, and long-term consumption was not advisable. However, the worship of the deities actually made Suyu's godly spirit grow explosively. It simply subverted Suyu's understanding of the godly spirit. At this time, a complex and gratifying sigh sounded in Suyu's mind. You have not yet become a deity, but you have opened up the path of faith. I really envy your master, that old guy, for being so lucky to have picked up such a precious disciple. Opened up the path of faith? What is that? Suyu was surprised. The evil god was very secretive. This is related to the great Tao. Even I don't dare to say too much. You only need to know that you have embarked on a path that many gods envy but can't achieve. Congratulations. After that, the voice of the evil god fell silent. So he was curious. What kind of path had he embarked on? Unfortunately, the evil god seemed to be afraid of something and dared not speak nonsense. Suppressing his curiosity, Suyu sent all the deities of the Great Western Alliance away. Half a day later, the heaven pool that used to be full of cavern worlds was empty, leaving only the 6 cavern worlds that had lost their deities. No one moved them. Suyu couldn't help but sigh. The cavern worlds that had lost their deities were equivalent to precious godly spirit. The godly spirit that created the cavern worlds could be extracted from them. In normal times, it was a rare treasure, especially when it was so well preserved. But now, no one cared about it. It would be troublesome to even take it away. Then, I will accept it without hesitation, Suyu said, summoning the god Kylan. These are all yours. Suyu pointed to the cavern worlds that no one wanted. Hearing this, The god Kylan's eyes lit up, and he was ecstatic. I'm rich. This is a complete cavern world, without a trace of damage. If it is refined into a godly spirit, not only can I completely restore my former position, but I can also cultivate at least 3 deities. The cultivation method was similar to that of the Central Prefecture's king, who became a deity through the Jojo cavern world. Like a silkworm, he absorbed the vitality of the cavern world and slowly became a deity. You can choose a reliable Jojo creature as a candidate, Suyu said, not hindering the god Kylan. Chapter 1287. Suyu raises eyebrows. Oh, has she reached stage 4 of the mortal fairy? Of course. All the high-quality resources are given to her first. Coupled with her special Death Phoenix body, her cultivation speed is doubled. If she didn't deliberately suppress it, she would have already entered the ranks of prospective deities. Hearing this, Suyu was overjoyed. Sienna was about to become a deity. Since he came to Xing River, he rarely had time to see Sienna. Suyu couldn't help but feel guilty. Now that there's a cavern world for her to use, it will be much easier for her to become a deity on her own. I believe you will soon have a prospective deity as your wife. God Kylan returned the favor by deliberately observing Qin Xian. Thank you. So you said, I'm just using your things. By the way, the black and white mortal fairies have also entered the realm of early-stage prospective deities. Recently, they are consolidating their cultivation. In addition, there are several others who have obtained the celestial energy sphere from you and are also trying to break through the realm of prospective deities. I believe there will be many deities in the Jojo cavern world soon, God Kylan said excitedly. Suyu nodded. God Kylan, you can decide the affairs of the Jojo cavern world. I won't ask too many questions. God Kylan stared at Suyu for a long time and said, Suyu, I guess you must have wondered why I, as a demon, created human beings, right? Suyu had always wondered about this. In any cavern world created by a god, the main creatures in it were all the god's clan. God Kylan was the only exception. However, Suyu had never seriously considered the reason behind it. Judging from the tone of the sacred Kylan, it seemed that there was a mystery behind it. Yes, was it very important? Suyu asked. God Kylan nodded seriously. Yes, it is very important. I was asked by a great man to create human beings. What? Who can order you? Suyu asked curiously. God Kylan said, he is the only remaining world overlord in the Xing River. I believe you will meet him soon in the calamity of the realm of demons. World overlord? Hearing this, Suyu was greatly shocked. In the Xing River, there was still a world overlord in the heyday. According to the records, he could destroy more than 100 cavern worlds with one finger. Just thinking about it made Suyu's hair stand on end. Why did he ask you to do this? Suyu asked. The sacred Kylan shook his head and said, I can't tell you because I promised that overlord that I wouldn't say a word. If you meet him, I think he will tell you everything. After saying that, the sacred Kylan retreated, unwilling to say anything else. Suyu stood there for a long time. Unintentionally, he had obtained quite a number of secrets. Evil God was talking about faith power, the overlord of heaven and earth that God Kylan spoke of. Speaking of which, both of them were abnormal deities. Shaking his head, Suyu set aside the news for the time being. His expression became solemn as he waved his sleeves. 9 figures appeared in front of him. The first prince, second princess, 6th princess, and the 6 city lords. I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The 9 demon gods, who had yet to come back to their senses, were stunned. The 6th princess reacted the fastest. Her pretty eyes flashed. Listen to me first. The good news is that you might be free soon. The first prince and the 6th princess were shocked. The 6th princess blurted out, really? However, she soon realized that Suyu had not told them the bad news. She said seriously, how bad is your bad news? Very bad, extremely bad. More specifically, the Holy Magic Hall is here to kill us, and the demonic god of 6 paths is leading the team. Clang! The first prince lost control of his chi and shook the demonic sword out of his arms. His eyes flashed with shock. Really? Swish! Suyu waved his sleeves, and the image of the demonic god of six paths appeared. The pupils of the first prince, second princess, and sixth princess shrank, and their faces changed dramatically. The demonic god of six paths. The three princes and princesses were raised by the demonic god of six paths. In their minds, the demonic god of six paths was invincible, like a giant mountain that could not be crossed. It was unexpected that he would come to kill them in person. With the current situation of the demonic dimension, they needed the demonic god of six paths to quickly quell the rebellion. Why would he go out on a mission? The sixth princess's face was full of despair. The bad news you mentioned. Do you mean that even if we get freedom, we may not be alive to enjoy it? Suyu nodded calmly. Exactly. The first prince and the sixth princess's faces suddenly became very grave. Even you have lost your fighting spirit? Suyu sighed. The sixth princess smiled bitterly. You don't know how powerful the demonic god of six paths is. Even if we join forces, we will never be able to hurt him. So, you know you will die, so you choose to sit and wait for death? Suyu said calmly. The deities of the Great Western Alliance can leave if they know they can't defeat them. But can you? Don't tell me you don't know who the demonic god of six paths is after this time. The panic in the first prince's eyes gradually calmed down. He stroked the demonic sword with his palm, and his whole body emitted a fierce aura. You are right. Running away is useless. Even if you know you will die, you have to use the sword to leave a drop of the enemy's blood, even if it is the demonic god of six paths. The sixth princess smiled bitterly, and her mentality gradually changed. Was there any use in being afraid? Even the second princess sighed helplessly. Alas, we still can't escape. As for the rest of you, Suyu looked at the six demonic city masters. They exchanged glances with each other, all of them intending to retreat. They were not under Suyu's control. They followed Suyu only because he could give them an honorable identity. But now, the lives of Suyu and the three princes and princesses were in danger. Was there any point in following them? Catch up with the Great Western Alliance. Shimin Jian and Lin Lang Fan will take care of you. The six demonic city masters felt as if they had been pardoned. They bowed to Suyu gratefully and immediately moved away. It was the same bow to the deities. This time, it did not trigger any celestial phenomenon, nor did it increase Suyu's godly spirit. The three princes and princesses had no objection to Suyu letting them go. Their strength was too weak compared to the demonic god of six paths. They would be of no use except to die. It was better to just let them go. All right, please get ready. We will fight the demonic god of six paths to death. The sixth princess took a deep breath and made up her mind. The first prince and the second princess also revealed a resolute expression. Die? We may not die. If we make proper arrangements, we still have a chance of survival. Suyu's eyes shone. What? There is a chance of survival against the demonic god of six paths? If someone else had said this, they would not have believed it. But Suyu's words gave them a strong sense of hope. Everything that Suyu had experienced made them almost blindly believe that this young human had the ability to constantly create miracles. What he said would often become reality. Take the recent incident with the Great Western Alliance, for example. Suyu once told the Gongsun deity that as long as the Gongsun deity sincerely apologized, things would stop there. At that time, everyone would probably think that Suyu was arrogant. A mere mortal fairy boasted shamelessly in front of a deity. However, the consequences of the Gongsun deity's resistance were unexpected. The Great Western Alliance was turned upside down. From an outsider, he had successfully taken control of the entire Great Western Alliance. Now, when he said that they still had a chance of survival, it really gave them a jolt. You said that we won't die? Do you mean that we have a chance of survival? The sixth princess looked at Suyu with reverence. She asked again in disbelief. Suyu smiled lightly. No, we won't die. I mean, if we don't die, they will. Hiss. Even the first prince opened his eyes wide and said in disbelief, You mean the demonic god of six paths? Yes. If the arrangement is done properly, we can kill all of them. The three princes and princesses were shocked on the spot. Kill the demonic god of six paths? They didn't even dare to think about it. But the strength of the demonic god of 6 paths. The sixth princess was shaken. She felt that this plan was more difficult than the miraculous escape from the demonic dimension. Suyu said, "His strength is indeed invincible. However, invincibility depends on the occasion. If it were elsewhere, I wouldn't be able to do anything to him. But here," Suyu looked back at the huge heaven pool behind him and said with a faint smile, "He may not be invincible." All the cavern worlds were moved away, revealing the endless heaven pool that stretched across the starry sky. The milky white lake water gently rippled and rippled. This is the heaven pool of the Great Western Alliance. As the royal family of the demonic dimension, they had dabbled in ancient books. It was no secret that there was a strange heaven pool under the Great Western Alliance. However, wasn't it too childish to use the heaven pool to deal with them? "Master, I think the demonic god of 6 paths and the others should know that the heaven pool can devour everything in the world. I'm afraid it will be difficult to use the heaven pool to deal with them." Suyu smiled mysteriously. "So what if they know? Because they know, it will be easier for me to make arrangements." Swish! The four of them teleported to the center of the heaven pool, less than 10 feet away from the water of the heaven pool. The three princes and princesses were extremely cautious and vigilant. "From now on, strictly follow my plan. Here's the plan," Suyu said slowly. Upon hearing this, the three princes and princesses were shocked. "Is there such a thing?" Suyu smiled mysteriously. They were nervous and excited at the same time. Perhaps they could really destroy all of them. Time passed little by little. The curse on Suyu's chest was getting stronger. The mark of the demon's head was constantly beating as if it had sensed something and was about to jump out of Suyu's body. They were close. Although they hadn't shown up yet, the vast starry sky had fallen into a dead silence. In the Xing River, the wild beast that usually wreaked havoc had sunk into the depths of the Xing River, trembling with fear, not daring to reveal the slightest breath. It was as if some extremely terrible things were slowly descending. 2 hours later, an unknown wind blew in the Xing River. The silent Xing River set off waves of ripples. 2 hours later, the ripples of the Xing River had turned into waves the size of a palm. Half an hour later, the waves had become waves that were half the height of a person. After half an hour, in the Xing River, a giant wave that was 10 feet high was set off. After a cup of tea, the initial ripples gradually turned into giant waves. Chapter 1288. The blood cloud was accompanied by thunder and lightning. It was also accompanied by a magnificent pressure. The Star River trembled violently under the pressure. The trembling waves were transmitted to Suyu continuously. As they approached, the waves of the Star River became stronger and stronger. Finally, "They are here." Suyu stared at the blood cloud. He could vaguely see 9 magnificent demonic figures in the blood cloud. After a short while, the blood cloud was approaching. Under the illumination of the blood clouds, the pitch-black world of the Milky Way turned blood red. The milky white heavenly lake was also covered by the blood clouds and turned into a sinister blood lake. The terrifying pressure caused the starry river to churn, the fluctuations shocking the heavens, as if the entire starry river was boiling. 9 beams of unparalleled divine power descended and locked onto Suyu. Suyu was not afraid at all. He stood up slowly and said calmly, "The demonic god of 6 paths, Admiral Whitebone, the demon cloud city master, Kalen, and the book deity." Boom! With a deafening thunder, the blood cloud turned into a mass of fog and entered the body of the demonic god of 6 paths. In the blood cloud, the 9 majestic figures of the gods appeared completely. Each of them was a big shot in the Star River, who could make the Star River tremble by stomping their feet. Now, they were gathered here for Suyu, the demonic god of 6 paths. The most powerful man in the realm of demons was one of them. His dark red color was different from the other demonic gods. His eyes were cold and indifferent, and he looked down on all living beings. All these showed that he was different from the others. The demonic god of 6 paths looked at Suyu. His gaze made the calm water of the heaven lake burst into waves. The whole heaven lake trembled a bit. Suyu also felt his body was about to collapse at this moment. His gaze could definitely kill most of the creatures in the world. Did my son feel pain when he died? The demonic god of six paths asked calmly. His words sounded calm, but the killing intent in them was quite terrifying. He wanted to inflict the pain that the Central Prefecture's king had suffered on Suyu. The demonic gods who came with the demonic god of six paths all showed pity for Suyu. If Suyu was smart enough to tell the demonic god of six paths that his son died quickly, he might feel better. However, Suyu's words startled everyone. I chased him for 7 days and 7 nights. I asked him to run all over the Jojo Cavern world and kill anyone who took him in. I made him feel despair physically and spiritually. He didn't know how painful it was to die like this. In other words, the Central Prefecture's king was tortured to death. The demon cloud city master sneered. Suyu knew his death was near, so he was so scared that he started to talk nonsense. The demonic god looked at Suyu coldly. The demonic god of six paths looked indifferent, but his killing intent was getting stronger. This wasn't the answer he wanted to hear. He wanted to see Suyu being frightened and trying his best to cover up his actions. Suyu was constantly repenting and begging for his forgiveness. It was completely different from what he had imagined. You are provoking me on purpose, the demonic god of six paths said calmly. Suyu shrugged his shoulders. I'm just not good at lying, so I accidentally told the truth. Fine. You will pay 10 times the price for my son's death, the demonic god of six paths said indifferently. Then, he was about to teleport to Suyu and kill him on the spot. Princess Yunxia had ordered him to bring back Suyu's body or people. The demonic god of six paths was worried that Suyu's body would fall into the heaven pool and be swept away. However, at this moment a voice said, Demonic god of six paths, please wait. The demonic god of six paths stopped teleporting and stared at the book deity. The book deity's divine death misfortune was not removed. However, it was suppressed by a force. Judging from the aura, it was the demonic god of six paths. The book deity looked at Suyu calmly and said, Didn't the demonic god of six paths notice that the traitors he took with him have disappeared? Hearing that, the other demonic gods nodded their heads. The Great Western Alliance had disappeared. Even the demon princes and princesses had disappeared. Suyu was alone in the heaven pool. Based on my understanding of him, he must be playing tricks. The demonic god of six paths must not approach the heaven pool. Otherwise, you will be tricked. The book deity saw through Suyu's plot. The demonic god of six paths looked at Suyu indifferently. He didn't teleport to the heaven pool. Suyu felt it was a pity. Then he stared at the book deity and said, What a haunting ghost. If the book deity hadn't interfered, things would have gone much smoother. The demonic god of six paths turned around and looked at Admiral Whitebone. Admiral Whitebone turned around and looked at the Demon Cloud City Master. The Demon Cloud City Master, who was sneering, froze. He was very reluctant to go. Apparently, Suyu was playing tricks on him. He was going to be a scapegoat. If you don't go, you can sacrifice yourself for the Demon Emperor. Admiral Whitebone said ruthlessly. Hearing that, the Demon Cloud City Master felt a chill down his spine. He had seen the scene of sacrificing himself for the Demon Emperor. That was to be eaten alive by the giant of the bitter sea. The Demon Cloud City Master gritted his teeth and teleported. He thought to himself, As long as I am careful, Suyu won't be able to harm me. See, watch City Master go to hell. The Demon Cloud City Master, who was full of hatred, teleported to the top of Suyu's head. Then, he started to attack Suyu with a long whip. The long whip was an imitation of an Emperor-based Saint artifact. It flew out like a dragon and aimed at Suyu's neck. However, when the long whip was about to reach Suyu, a green vine flew out from the 9 jade spiritual pearl on Suyu's arm abruptly and entangled the long whip. Oh no! The Demon Cloud City Master was shocked. Could this be Suyu's hidden trump card? Without thinking, the Demon Cloud City Master immediately threw away the long whip and quickly teleported back. However, the moment the long whip appeared, a small golden mountain suddenly appeared above the head of the Demon Cloud City Master and pressed down with a loud rumble. Ah! The demon cloud city master screamed in terror. The five elements mountain couldn't hurt him. However, it could suppress him. Then, he fell into the heaven pool immediately. Admiral Whitebone snorted coldly. Useless! All of a sudden, his arm exploded and turned into a hideous snake-shaped demon. It jumped forward abruptly and knocked away the five elements mountain. At the same time, the demon wrapped itself around the demon cloud city master and started to drag him back. Suyu was not surprised. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. Hee, you are finally here. With a wicked laugh, the tree goddess showed up. The vine that had entangled the whip was split into two. One of the vines entangled the demon cloud city master, while the other entangled the snake-shaped demon that had been transformed by Admiral Whitebone's arm. The green vine shone brightly and released an amazing force. Then it dragged both of them down. After the transformation, the tree goddess was much more powerful than before. The demon cloud city master was no match for her. Therefore, he was dragged down to the heaven pool directly. No. The demon cloud city master screamed in terror. Then he struggled desperately and begged for mercy. Seawatch city master, please show mercy. Splash. With a splash of water, the demon cloud city master was thrown into the heavenly lake and never came out again. What a coward. The tree goddess curled her lips. Then she looked at Admiral Whitebone, who was also entangled, and said, It's your turn. She wanted to use the same trick and throw him into the heavenly lake. However, when he was dragged to the surface of the lake, Admiral Whitebone snorted disdainfully, You are still too young. Then his arm, which had been entangled by the vine, was cut off abruptly. The tree goddess snorted, It's still too early for that. Swish! Dozens of vines covered the sky and covered the earth, wrapping around every part of Whitebone General's body. However, when the vines were about to drag him down, Admiral Whitebone's body was cut into hundreds of pieces of minced meat. Then each piece of minced meat turned into a hideous little snake. Hundreds of little snakes sneered at the same time. That's why I said you were still too young. It's not that easy. The tree goddess was irritated. Then her black hair, which was emitting black light, turned into countless fine silk threads, which entangled all the little snakes. However, the same thing happened again. The little snakes, which were entangled by the silk threads, were cut into two pieces by themselves. The tree goddess gritted her silver teeth. Her hair was like a sharp divine weapon, which kept cutting the little snakes. However, more and more little snakes appeared and became thinner and thinner. In the end, Admiral Whitebone turned into a piece of pitch-black dust. Thousands of voices came from the dust. Ha! It's not that easy to kill me. As for you, I can kill you easily. Swoosh! A handful of dust, which carried a touch of blood-red liquid, flew toward the tree goddess. The blood-red liquid made the tree goddess's pupils shrink. Her delicate body couldn't help but tremble. The water of the bitter sea. She had fallen into a coma because of the water of the bitter sea. The dust was so fine that even one grain of it could enter her pores, and the water of the bitter sea would enter her body. This method was impossible to defend against. However, before Admiral Whitebone could feel happy, a deity-level wild beast flew toward him with a roar. Then he opened his mouth wide and swallowed all the dust that the upper General Whitebone had turned into, leaving nothing behind. Instantly, Admiral Whitebone understood Suyu's intention and said in panic, Stop! Plop! However, along with a ripple, the deity-level wild beast and Admiral Whitebone fell into the heaven pool together. The whole area fell into a dead silence. Did Admiral Whitebone die just like that? He was held in the mouth of a wild beast and jumped into the heaven pool together with the wild beast. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Demon Cloud City Master was just an ordinary deity of the Holy Magic Hall. However, Admiral Whitebone, one of the top 10 generals of the demon realm, was killed just like that. The book deity's calm face became gloomy. Staring at the Star River scripture in Suyu's hand, his face became even more gloomy. How could you come up with such an idea? The tree goddess burst into laughter with her hands covering her belly. You were so arrogant just now. In the blink of an eye, you were killed just like that. Suyu shrugged his shoulders. This is called karma comes fast. On the demon cloud, everyone looked gloomy. They thought they could complete this task easily. However, they lost a strong man like Admiral Whitebone at the beginning. Kaylin squinted her phoenix eyes. I see. He relied on this tree goddess to drag people who approached him into the heaven pool. Humph. I will deal with this woman. The other 3 demonic gods will go and catch Suyu. If we attack one by one, we will be defeated one by one. Kaylin saw through Suyu's plan. As long as they could stall the tree goddess, it would be a piece of cake for the others to catch Suyu. Chapter 1289. There's more? Kaylin's pretty eyes flickered slightly. She patted her waist with one hand and took out a flute. She gently blew into it. A melodious flute melody that could resist the soul spread out leisurely. The sound of the flute permeated every nook and cranny. When it swept past the prayer beads on Suyu's wrist, the sound of the flute changed. Kaylin fixed her eyes on Suyu's Buddha beads and said with a sarcastic smile, just as the demonic god of 6 paths said, there is another hidden deity. I'm guessing that it's the purple-eyed fiend celestial who betrayed you along with you. The Buddha's prayer beads shook and a figure appeared. His eyes were a strange purple. Who else could it be but the purple-eyed demonic god? I'm sorry for interrupting your inheritance, Suyu said. The purple-eyed demonic god chuckled. It doesn't matter. The inheritance has been completed. As long as my body and soul perish, she will automatically ascend to become a god and become the new purple-eyed demonic god. His body exuded an aura of death that not even divine power could suppress. Suyu glanced at it and sighed inwardly. The purple-eyed demonic god was almost at his limit. The aura of death permeated every part of his body. Suyu was powerless against such a natural death of old age, and he couldn't even resurrect the dead. I will deal with the tree goddess. You can deal with the purple-eyed demonic god and Suyu. Kaylin sneered as she turned into a beam of light and rushed towards the tree goddess. With a twist of her hand, she plucked a red flower from her hair and waved it lightly. The red flower turned into 10, 10 into 100, and 100 into 1,000. In an instant, the heavenly lake was filled with a sea of red flowers, surrounding her and the tree goddess. The red flowers seemed beautiful and emitted a rich fragrance. But if one looked carefully, one would notice that at the center of each flower was a mouth filled with sharp black teeth, and it was exceptionally ferocious. Nightmare's soul, devouring flower. Hearing this, the tree goddess frowned and said in a deep voice, Suyu, be careful. I may not be able to take care of you. For the tree goddess to say such words, it could be seen that she had encountered a great crisis. Suyu looked at the sea of flowers and felt a deep sense of danger. After all, she was the first made by Princess Yunxia's side, and her strength was not to be underestimated. The moment the tree goddess was entangled, the 3 gods of the Holy Magic Hall finally made their move. They were demon gods who had just been transformed and newly joined the Holy Magic Hall, but their strength was not weak, at least not inferior to the Demon Cloud City Master. The Demon Cloud City Master was the strongest demon god among the 9 gods in the Jingyu realm. My wish has been fulfilled. I will contribute my last bit of strength to you with my broken body. The purple-eyed demonic god looked at Suyu with a smile and turned into a beam of purple light. 10,000 years in one glance. The purple-eyed demonic god's eyes emitted intense purple light. Under the illumination of the purple light, the 3 demonic gods of the Holy Magic Hall immediately felt as though they had been completely seen through and had nowhere to hide. Be it the secrets hidden in one's heart or the sorrowful past, they were all seen through by a single eye. Demon God Shaoyin, in order to become a god, you slaughtered your clansmen. In order to join the Holy Magic Hall, you ate your own wife and children. You've lost all humanity. 100-legged demonic god, you coveted Princess Yunxia's beauty and joined the Holy Magic Hall to get close to her. Demon God Qingshan, you actually want to use this opportunity to escape from the demon world. The purple-eyed demonic god said in a clear voice, revealing all the secrets hidden deep in the hearts of the three. The demonic god Shaoyin was not a big deal, but the other two were punishable by death. Especially in front of the demonic god of six paths, these secrets were exposed. How could they survive? Kill him, and you will be absolved of your sins, the demonic god of six paths said calmly. The three demonic gods calmed down a little and attacked Suyu together. The demonic god Shaoyin used all his strength, but the 100-legged demonic god and the Qingshan demonic god couldn't concentrate. As a result, the three of them not only couldn't cooperate with each other, but also couldn't form an effective cooperation. The purple-eyed demonic god's strength was far inferior to any of the three, but he was able to deal with the three of them with ease. In addition, the purple-eyed demonic god kept revealing the secrets hidden in their hearts, one after another, which made them panic. In the end, even the demonic god Shaoyin was confused. So he was dumbfounded. He wasn't strong, but with his eyes that could detect the mysteries of the world, he could greatly reduce the enemy's strength without wasting a single soldier. Thinking about it carefully, if Suyu also encountered an enemy who could see through his secrets at a glance, it would be very tricky indeed. With a flash, Suyu took out the Star River scripture and sprayed a large amount of divine blood on the scripture. Instantly, a deity-level wild beast was released to assist the purple-eyed demonic god. However, this wasn't the end. Suyu's divine blood seemed to be inexhaustible. He kept using it to release one deity-level wild beast after another. When all 9 wild beasts were released, the Star River scripture, which the book deity had spent hundreds of years to create, was suddenly emptied. The 9 deity-level wild beasts were far inferior to the demonic god. However, when they cooperated with the purple-eyed demonic god, they gained the upper hand and suppressed the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall. What made the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall even more shocked and angry was that the 9 deities of the Holy Magic Hall used the same trick to entangle them and drag them into the Star River. At this time, the demonic god of 6 paths, who had been looking on coldly, said indifferently, "The tree goddess, the purple-eyed demonic god, and 9 deity-level wild beasts. That's all you have prepared, right?" When he finished speaking, the demonic god of 6 paths finally moved. His magnificent figure teleported and landed in the center of the 9 wild beasts. Then, he raised his finger and pointed at one of the deity-level wild beasts. Bang! With a muffled sound, the deity-level wild beast was smashed into pieces abruptly before it could even scream. The other 8 deity-level wild beasts trembled and fled in all directions in fear. None of their ferocious auras remained. The demonic god of 6 paths raised his finger and swept it across the wild beasts. Every time he pointed at a deity-level wild beast, the wild beast exploded and died. This was not a battle at all. It was a one-sided massacre. In the blink of an eye, the 9 deity-level wild beasts were all killed. The pressure on the 3 deities of the Holy Magic Hall was greatly reduced. They roared and were about to rush back. However, right at this moment, a small 5-color mountain suddenly came crashing down. With a loud noise, the 3 demonic deities who had just rushed up were smashed down. Their bodies were less than 3 feet away from the surface of the lake. When the 3 demonic deities were about to be smashed into the heavenly lake, the demonic god of 6 paths teleported over indifferently and grabbed the 5 elements mountain in the air. A shocking scene happened. The 5 elements mountain, which was falling rapidly, was grabbed by the 6 demonic deities with one hand. The 5 elements mountain, which could even suppress deities, was stopped by the demonic god of 6 paths. The 3 demonic deities felt relieved and were about to run away in fear. However, the corners of Suyu's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. "Do you think that someone can save you?" A magnificent, colorful light beam shot out from the bottom of the 5 elements mountain abruptly, which smashed the 3 demonic deities into the heavenly lake. With a loud sound of waves, the 3 demonic deities were swallowed before they could even make a bubble. The 3 demonic deities of the Holy Magic Hall had been killed. The demonic god of 6 paths grabbed the 5 elements mountain with his 5 fingers and stared at Suyu coldly. You really deserve to die. Same to you, Suyu said calmly. Die. The demonic god of six paths pointed his finger at Suyu. He wanted to kill Suyu as he had done to the 9 deity-level wild beasts. At this critical moment, a purple light flashed around Suyu's body. The purple-eyed demonic god grabbed Suyu and teleported away. Wherever Suyu stood, the water of the heavenly lake under his feet rippled violently. Be careful. That is the famous unique skill of the demonic god of six paths, the death ripple. It can shatter the enemy instantly with the vibration of divine power. It is invisible and dangerous. The purple light in the purple-eyed demonic god's eyes became brighter, and the death aura around him became more and more intense. Suyu nodded his head slowly and said, "Thank you very much." The purple-eyed demonic god remained calm. He believed that Suyu would be able to survive this crisis. He didn't fabricate the source of chaos. Humph! The demonic god of six paths snorted coldly. Then, he teleported with an extremely powerful aura. As soon as he appeared, the sky and earth roared. He was going to kill Suyu at a close distance with his magnificent body. At the same time, the space around them was locked. When the purple-eyed demonic god tried to teleport again with Suyu, he lost the opportunity. "I will stop him," the purple-eyed demonic god shouted. However, as soon as he moved, his chest was shattered by the demonic god of six paths. Then, he was blown out of the heavenly lake. Nobody could stop him anymore. Then the demonic god of six paths patted Suyu's head abruptly and said coldly, "Die. You don't have any backup plan." However, at that moment, Suyu's lips curled into a mocking smile. "I still have many ways to deal with you." "What?" The demonic god of six paths glanced at Suyu. There was no aura of a powerful deity in Suyu's portable abode. How would he have any backup plan? Besides, there was no way that a deity could hide in this place. "Come out," Suyu shouted in a low voice as he lifted his feet abruptly. At this moment, the demonic god of six paths discovered that a transparent silk thread was wrapped around Suyu's feet. The other end of the silk thread was in the water. The demonic god of six paths was surprised. Suyu was not devoured by the silk thread. Normally, anything that entered the heavenly lake would be devoured by the demonic god. But why is this silk thread? Oh no. The demonic god of six paths suddenly realized where Suyu's trump card was. The demonic god of six paths roared in a low voice and teleported away immediately. However, it was too late. When Suyu flew away, the silk thread wrapped around his feet brought 3 figures out of the heavenly lake. They were holding a fishing rod tightly, and the other end of the fishing rod was wrapped around Suyu's feet. Suyu took all 3 of them out of the heavenly lake. The demonic god of six paths was caught unprepared by the ambush, which was like a heavenly soldier descending from the sky. Puff, clang, buzz, the 3 of them launched their attacks at the demonic god of six paths, who was caught off guard. The bracelet of the second princess hit the demonic god of six paths' body and knocked him back with a buzzing sound. The sword of the sixth princess hit the demonic god of six paths' neck. However, the sword was knocked back as if it had hit an Emperor-based Saint artifact. However, the first prince's demonic sword penetrated the demonic god of six paths' chest and pierced through his demonic heart precisely. Endless demonic energy gushed out from the demonic heart of the demonic god of six paths. Even the demonic god had weaknesses. The demonic heart was one of them. I made it. The 3 of them couldn't believe that they had successfully injured the demonic god of six paths. However, they had only injured him. Get lost. The demonic god of six paths roared. The first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were knocked back and fell into the Star River. So he was quick to react. He swung his fishing rod and caught all 3 of them. When the 3 of them looked at the demonic god of six paths, their hearts sank to the bottom. The demonic god of six paths clenched his fist and pulled out a broken heart from his chest. Then he swallowed it. Then a new heart grew in the place where the heart had been. The wound also healed quickly. It was a fatal blow, but the demonic god of six paths was not injured at all. The undying demonic heart. The first prince said seriously. Chapter 1290. The undying demon heart was a forbidden technique that only the previous demon emperors had the opportunity to cultivate. He could devour the demon hearts of demon gods of the same level as him and use them as a reserve. Once his own demon heart was destroyed, he could immediately replace it. This was equivalent to robbing the lives of other fiend celestials to die for him. The demonic god of six paths looked at the first prince coldly and said, "You've improved. You can even destroy one of my demonic hearts." The eldest prince did not feel that this was a compliment. Then, the demonic god of six paths looked at Suyu and said with a cold smile, "I have to admit that you are quite powerful for tricking me." He had thought that the tree goddess would be a backup plan, but the purple-eyed demon god had popped out. Then, 9 divine-level wild beasts had appeared. When they all thought Suyu had used all his trump cards, Suyu revealed his trump card, which was specially prepared for the demonic god of six paths. He actually indulged in the wildest fantasies. No one expected that there were 3 absolute experts hidden under the heavenly pond. The Great Prince and the Sixth Princess, these two were the top powerhouses in the Devil Realm, especially the Great Prince, a powerhouse who was about to inherit the throne. If the demonic god of six paths hadn't secretly cultivated the immortal demon heart, he would have died here today. It's a pity that I failed. Suyu sighed deeply. It was not easy to kill the demonic god of six paths. However, he was not too disappointed. If the demonic god of six paths had died so easily, he would have been surprised. "Keep him occupied," Suyu ordered. The first prince and his 2 companions had determined looks on their faces. Now that things had come to this, even if Suyu did not say anything, they could only fight to the death. Although it was still likely to be a one-sided massacre. "Attack!" The eldest imperial prince shouted in a low voice and charged forward with his sword in hand. He was already prepared to die. The second princess and the sixth princess also gritted their teeth and quickly teleported over. "My disciples have grown up," the demonic god of six paths said with a faint smile. "So it's time for you to repay me. You should follow me back to the realm of devils." Six Dao Tianluan. 6 blood-red eyes appeared behind the demonic god of six paths. Every single one of them contained extreme power. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 6 eyes suddenly shot out 6 pillars of light that were as black as ink, sweeping toward the eldest prince and the others. "Be careful. It's the divine path of the demonic god of six paths." The first prince's expression was extremely serious. He held his sword horizontally in front of his chest to block one of the rays of light. Clang. However, the pitch-black ray of light ignored tangible objects and pierced through the demon sword, piercing through the first prince's chest. The sixth princess and the second princess were the same. It was unknown what that pitch-black ray of light was, but could not be blocked by any material object. No matter how strong one's strength was, no matter how powerful one's magic treasure was, once the 6 paths of natural harmony appeared, all living beings would perish. The 3 all-powerful princes and princesses had fallen just like that. A bitter smile finally bloomed on the corner of the 6th princess's mouth. Was this the end? He did not see any hope of survival. She had trusted Suyu too much. His eyes gradually closed and slowly sank into darkness. But right at this moment, an indifferent voice sounded out by his ear. After the voice appeared, it was like a stabilizing needle, making the heart of the 6th princess suddenly calm down. Life domain. An emerald halo radiated from Suyu, shrouding the first prince, the second princess, and the 6th princess. They, who were about to die, recovered in an instant. In particular, the first prince, whose demonic heart had been shattered, was now alive and well. The 3 of them were stunned on the spot, deeply shocked. "What are you waiting for? He has the undying demonic heart, and I have the undying domain. He can't kill you within 10 minutes, but you can kill him." How could there be such a terrifying domain? Not only were the 3 princes and princesses shocked, but the demonic god of six paths also witnessed the resurrection of the 3 princes and princesses. For the first time, his indifferent face was filled with shock. He had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, but this was the first time he had heard of a special domain that could bring people back to life. After recovering from their shock, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess looked at each other in surprise and confusion. Then, they charged forward again. 6 paths of natural harmony. The demonic god of 6 paths shouted loudly. 6 demonic eyes appear behind him, shooting out black rays that could penetrate everything in the world. Without any suspense, the 3 princes and princesses were pierced through again in their vital parts. In particular, the first prince lost his head, but it was restored in the blink of an eye. The destroyed, demonic hearts of the second princess and the sixth princess were also restored in an instant. Such a nature-defying domain shocked and excited them. If Suyu had such a domain, he wouldn't be afraid of a battle. The sixth princess's heart was rekindled with hope. Maybe Suyu really had the confidence to kill the demonic god of 6 paths. The 3 princes and princesses were overjoyed. They teleported forward to kill the demonic god of 6 paths, regardless of the horrible means of the demonic god of 6 paths. No matter how the demonic god of 6 paths attacked them, or how badly they were injured, they fought desperately, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. The first prince's head was shattered by the demonic god of 6 paths' palm. However, the first prince didn't seem to notice it. He waved the demonic sword in his hand and destroyed the demonic heart of the demonic god of 6 paths again. The second princess's body was shattered, but her remaining hand still grabbed the bracelet and bombarded the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. The sixth princess's demonic heart was destroyed one after another. However, under the protection of the immortal realm, she didn't feel death at all. She took the opportunity to cut off half of the demonic god of 6 paths' head. In the past, the demonic god of 6 paths could kill them easily with every move. However, now, he was roaring in anger as he was killed dozens of times by them. The demonic god of 6 paths had never fought such a stupid battle before. He had killed them hundreds of times, but they didn't die. Instead, they continued to hurt him fearlessly. His demonic heart had been crushed 10 times. His head was also cut off in half. If this went on, he might really be killed. He wanted to kill Suyu first. However, Suyu is also under the protection of the immortal realm. The black light of the demonic god of 6 paths recovered immediately after killing Suyu. Get lost! The demonic god of 6 paths was furious. For many years, he had rarely been angry. On the other hand, the first prince, the second princess, and the sixth princess were fighting passionately. Ha ha ha! This is awesome. I never thought I would fight the demonic god of 6 paths in this way. The second princess was also excited. Come on, we might really be able to kill the demonic god of 6 paths. The sixth princess was even more eager to kill them. Interesting. This is so interesting. He can resurrect infinitely and kill an invincible strong man. The weird battle was still going on. A piece of ancient black ice was lying quietly in Suyu's palm. The ice was slowly being melted by Suyu's divine strength. Visible to the naked eye, there was a thumb-sized insect frozen in the primordial profound ice. Although the bug was small, it gave off a terrifying aura. The dead soul bug was a horrible spiritual bug that devoured the souls of creatures in ancient times. Moreover, this was not an ordinary dead soul bug. It was a bug that failed to cross the ordeal to become a medium deity. Suyu had experienced its dreadfulness. It was an existence that caused the divine nine-dragon Cauldron to warn him urgently. Suyu had experienced many soul attacks. Only that time, the divine nine-dragon Cauldron warned him the most. The 3 princes were still fighting the demonic god of 6 paths, Suyu was concentrating on melting the ancient black ice. Both sides were racing against time to seize the opportunity. Time passed bit by bit. Although the tree goddess wanted to help Suyu very much, she was still entangled by Kalen. Everything depended on whether Suyu could refine the ancient black ice in advance. However, there were still 2 people on the field who were not restrained. They were the divine souls of the book deity and Luo Huan. With the wisdom of the book deity, he grasped this most critical moment very keenly. It seemed Suyu was preparing a big move that could decide the fate of the world. The book deity smiled faintly. With me here, I'm afraid your plan will fail. The tree goddess hated this be ****. Why does he always make trouble at the most critical moment? Suyu's killing intent was also very strong. The book deity had hindered him many times and put him in great danger several times. Now was the critical moment to fight against the demonic god of six paths. Although I can't kill you in your realm, I can easily affect your refining of the ancient black ice. The book deity smiled and took out a golden scripture. It was a demonic scripture that could disturb people's minds. Opening the scripture, the book deity read it on the spot with a sarcastic smile. As soon as he read it, Suyu felt upset, and his divine power was unstable. The speed of refining the ancient black ice slowed down suddenly. The time limit of the realm of life was almost up. The book deity smiled calmly and read faster. The source of all evils, the demon's heart is in chaos. The heart of heaven is not shaken. Destroy your mother. Suddenly, a roar came. At the same time, a strand of extremely powerful divine power crossed the Star River and hit the book deity. The book deity was caught off guard. He was hit by the divine power and rolled several times. The demonic scripture in his hand disappeared. His neat clothes were messy. His hair was scattered all over the ground, and his nose and mouth were full of blood. His appearance was as miserable as one could imagine. Who is it? The book deity turned his head and looked out of the Star River. Swish! A figure of a woman teleported from the depths of the Star River, revealing a cold and angry face. Shang deity! The book deity was shocked. He never expected the Shang deity to be here. You are worse than an animal. You are a scourge in the Eastern Alliance, and you are still a scourge in the Western Alliance. Today, this god will split open your head and see if it's filled with shit or not. The book deity was so scared that he turned around and ran away, ignoring Suyu. How could he deal with a powerful god like the Shang deity? The Shang deity looked at Suyu and found that he was looking at her in agreement. She couldn't help but feel embarrassed. The series of vulgarities just now was really not in line with her usual elegant image. Ahem, I just came back because I was worried. Leave the book deity to me. This time, he has no way to escape. The Shang deity said, and immediately chased after the book deity. She and the sword deity felt guilty to sue you and the Eastern Alliance, so they turned back. Unexpectedly, what made her furious was that the shameless book deity actually helped the demons to deal with Suyu, which really drove her crazy. Without any obstacles, Suyu focused on refining the ancient black ice. Soon after, the last trace of ice on the dead soul worm dissipated. An extremely tyrannical, terrifying, and cryptic aura suddenly rushed out. Suyu's eyes flashed, and he shouted, "Come back." Chapter 1291. Hearing that, the three princes and princesses, the purple-eyed demonic god, and the tree goddess retreated to Suyu's side. The demonic god of six paths and Cauldron noticed the dead soul worm in Suyu's palm. Cauldron frowned and said, "That worm is a bit weird." Somehow, she sensed a bit of danger from the worm. The demonic god of six paths frowned slightly and said, "Step back." The demonic god of six paths' intuition told him that the worm was very dangerous. So, he teleported away without hesitation. Suyu stared at the dead soul worm in his palm and took a breath. Then he grabbed a strand of vitality and injected it into the worm's body. Then he shouted in a low voice, "You may feel a bit painful now. Just bear with it." Then Suyu clenched his fist and used all of his strength to pinch the bug. The dead soul worm was stimulated. Then the last strand of consciousness in its body was awakened. Boom! A strand of horrible aura that could shake the entire Star River was awakened. The aura was so powerful that no other creature could rival it except for the giant of the bitter sea. The eyes of the dead soul worm, which had been closed for many years, opened abruptly. Then a pair of green eyes appeared. Its eyeballs moved slightly and glanced at Suyu, the three princes and princesses, the tree goddess, the purple-eyed demonic god, Cauldron, and finally the demonic god of six paths. That gaze was calm and without ripples, like the Buddhist Dharma in the temple, looking down indifferently. Even when it glanced at the demonic god of six paths, its eyes were still calm. It seemed all creatures, including the demonic god of six paths, were just a group of ants in its eyes. It was this group of ants that awakened the last strand of consciousness of the demonic god of six paths. After being glanced at by the dead soul worm, not only Suyu and the others, but also the demonic god of six paths, was frightened for the first time. This is a medium deity. A medium deity was also a deity. However, a medium deity, like the demonic god of six paths and the demonic god of six paths, were like two different creatures. The demonic god of six paths couldn't help but tremble. After being glanced at by the demonic god of six paths, Kaylin felt a chill all over her body. The fear of death overwhelmed her. She couldn't help but tremble. Her body became extremely stiff, and she couldn't move. It was only when she bit the tip of her tongue to stimulate herself to suppress her emotions that she finally moved her feet and teleported away. It was too terrifying. Except for the giant of the bitter sea, she had never felt such a terrifying aura from any other creature. Even the demonic god of six paths was no match for him. "Don't move," the demonic god of six paths said suddenly. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Even when he was trying to persuade Kaylin, he kept staring at the dead soul worm and dared not move. However, Kaylin was already intimidated by the dead soul worm's aura, so she subconsciously teleported away. At this moment, the eyes of the dead soul worm, which had always been calm, slowly turned to look at Kaylin, who was running away. A cruel and evil grin appeared in his eyes. Bang! The dead soul worm spread its wings, and Suyu's palm, which was holding onto it, turned into dust. It stared at Kaylin, opened its mouth, and inhaled coldly. An unforgettable scene appeared. The Milky Way was flowing backwards. No, the entire Milky Way was flowing backwards. The water of the Star River, the broken cavern worlds in the Star River, the broken dust, and countless wild beasts were all sucked into its seemingly small mouth. At the end of the Milky Way, a figure who was trying his best to teleport appeared clearly. It was Kaylin. She had clearly teleported hundreds of millions of miles away, but the dead soul worm had actually sucked her back together with the Star River world. Although she was still fearfully teleporting forward, she was still sucked back, and in the blink of an eye, she was in front of the dead soul worm's mouth. "Demonic god of six paths, save me!" Kaylin screamed in terror. However, the demonic god of six paths remained motionless, and his eyes were filled with fear. Whoosh! The next moment, Kaylin was swallowed by the dead soul worm. What was even more peculiar was that the starry sky world that had just been swept away suddenly returned to its original state, as if it had never been devoured in the first place. The entire process was like an illusion. However, upon closer inspection, one would discover that all the living beings in the Milky Way world that had just flowed in reverse had lost something. Soul. Both the wild beasts hiding in the Milky Way and Kaylin's body floating in the distance had lost their souls. What had just happened was not an illusion. The dead soul worm had just absorbed the souls of this Milky Way world. Suyu, the prince and princess, the purple-eyed demonic god, the tree goddess, and even the demonic god of six paths were all staring at this horrifying scene in a daze. Is this the dead soul worm that had failed to cross the tribulation? Moreover, it only had a trace of consciousness left. After swallowing Kaylin, the dead soul worm's body became a little bit dimmer. After all, it was just a broken body, and it barely survived with the help of Suyu's vitality. It had been dead for a long time, and its vitality was fading rapidly. Therefore, it could only exist in this world for a short time. However, even a short time was enough for it to survive. It turned around and looked at the demonic god of six paths. After all, his soul was the most powerful among all of them, and he was the one who attracted the dead soul worm's attention the most. The demonic god of six paths was shocked. Then he shouted in a serious voice, "I know you are still conscious. However, it wasn't me who woke you up, but the person behind you." Hearing that, the dead soul worm turned around and stared at Suyu. At this moment, Suyu's soul trembled violently, and the divine nine-dragon cauldron in his mind kept vibrating violently to warn him. In this way, Suyu managed to suppress his trembling soul. Suyu was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. What a horrible dead soul worm. When Suyu was extremely vigilant, the dead soul worm didn't attack Suyu after giving him a cold look. Instead, it stared at the demonic god of six paths again and uttered a strange, obscure sound. Suyu, who was proficient in many living creatures' languages, was the only one who could understand what the dead soul worm was saying. It was the language of the insect race, and it said, "Don't rush. Take your time." After uttering in a low voice, the dead soul worm flew slowly toward the demonic god of six paths. However, the demonic god of six paths acted as if he was facing a formidable enemy, and he chose to attack first. Natural family of the six paths. 6 eyes appear behind him, which shot out 6 beams of black light that could penetrate everything in the world. Nothing tangible could resist it. However, when the black light hit the dead soul worm, it was absorbed by the dead soul worm, and nothing was left. Then, the dead soul worm uttered a low voice and sneered. "Any attack is useless against me." This was because the dead soul worm was also a non-tangible existence. In other words, it was a soul. It was born with a soul, but no physical form. The demonic god of six paths was greatly shocked. Then he took out a shabby, ancient, blood-stained robe and shook it in the air. The robe fluttered in the wind, and an amazing aura burst out from it. The aura of the robe surpassed all fairy artifacts. It was an imitation of an emperor-based saint artifact. The 9 Emperor Shroud. The first prince shouted in surprise. Chapter 1292. I can't believe the demonic god of six paths has hidden this item. The emperor, who opened up the galaxy? Suyu was secretly surprised. The demonic dimension's knowledge of the world's secrets was far greater than that of the outside world. Chila, the demonic god of six paths, instilled his divine power into it and threw it out. Suddenly, the 9 Emperor Shroud expanded infinitely and turned into 1,000,000 square meters, enveloping the dead soul worm along with the galaxy. With a sizzling sound, everything wrapped in it melted into a pool of blood dripping down the shroud. As the shroud continued to shrink, it finally shrunk back to its original form. The divine clothes were completely silent. Presumably, the dead soul worm had also been killed. The demonic god of six paths looked a bit relaxed. Suddenly, Shun-E squirmed. From under the divine clothes, a bug slowly crawled out. It was bathed in blood. If it wasn't the dead soul bug, then who could it be? The demonic god of six paths was shocked. He didn't even give up the divine robe and retreated quickly. The dead soul worm let out a playful grin and whispered in insect language, "It's over." Chi, the dead soul worm, opened its mouth and absorbed the soul of the demonic god of six paths. In an instant, a magnificent soul was forcibly removed from the body of the demonic god of six paths. The demonic god of six paths was shocked and shouted, "Immortal demon heart!" Puff, his chest exploded, and his devil heart flew out on its own to block his divine soul before exploding. After the explosion, a lifeless divine soul appeared. This was the true owner of the devil heart. Whoosh! The sluggish soul of the demonic god of six paths was devoured, and his soul returned to his body. But before he could escape, the sucking force of the dead soul worm came again. The demonic heart that the demonic god of six paths had just condensed was swallowed again. The consciousness of the dead soul worm leaked out a tyrannical aura. It was clearly enraged, and its soul-devouring power increased exponentially. The demonic heart of the demonic god of six paths was immediately devoured. From the perspective of Suyu and the others, they saw the demonic god of six paths was motionless. Then, one demonic heart after another flew out of his chest. In the blink of an eye, more than 30 demon hearts flew out. In addition to the 10 that the first prince had destroyed, he now had a total of 40 demon hearts. He actually killed so many fiend celestials and used their fiend celestial hearts to cultivate the immemorial fiend celestial heart. The second princess said in surprise, "That's impossible. So many demons have died. Why didn't they notice?" The sixth princess was also very surprised, but she said calmly, "It's very easy to understand. Many deities joined the holy magic hall and then disappeared. It's very likely that they were taken by the demonic god of six paths to practice. No one dared to inquire about the mysteries of the holy magic hall. But I'm almost at my limit. The sixth princess said, over the years, after joining the holy magic hall, there were only more than 50 gods who had never shown up again. Once the demonic heart was used up, it would be the demonic god of six paths' turn to have his own demonic heart devoured. Once his demonic heart died, his soul would not be spared. However, the glow of the dead soul worm was very dim, and it seemed like it would not last for long. However, judging from the situation, it was more likely that the demonic god of six paths would collapse first. The demonic god of six paths' expression changed drastically. The appearance of the dead soul worms put him on the verge of death. If this continued, he would really die here. The demonic god of six paths' eyes flickered with regret. He shouted and took out the 9 broken golden wooden swords. The 3 princes and princesses were shocked when they saw the swords. Are these swords made of the golden flames forbidden wood? Even Su Yu was surprised. Didn't they say that only a piece of the golden flames forbidden wood was found, and it was used to forge 9 magic treasures to restrain the giant of the bitter sea? Why were there 9 broken swords? The first prince's eyes lit up. It turns out the rumor is true. It is said that when the golden flames forbidden wood was dug out, a set of 9 swords was hidden in the heart of the tree. I thought it was just a legend. I didn't expect it to be true. The demonic god of six paths shouted as he took out the 9 broken swords made of the golden flames forbidden wood. Cosmos sword formation. Sizzle. Instantly, the 9 broken swords formed a sword formation and landed near the dead soul worm. The 3 princes and princesses looked calm, but Su Yu was shocked. Cosmos sword formation? The 6th princess was surprised. What's wrong? Is there anything wrong with the Cosmos sword formation, the secret sword formation of the royal family of the demon dimension? This was the first time that she had seen Su Yu so surprised. When Su Yu saw the 9 broken swords, he had a sense of déjà vu. When the demonic god of six paths shouted the Cosmos sword formation, Su Yu was completely shocked. Wasn't that the Cosmos sword formation, the second part of the 9 suns Cosmos sword formation? Back then, he only got the first part of the 9 sun sword formation, which used the heavenly orchid silver bamboo as the body of the sword. It was a pity that he had never found the second part of the Cosmos sword formation. Hearing the 6th princess's explanation, Su Yu was quite surprised. The Cosmos sword formation was a secret technique of the royal family of the demon dimension. Su Yu suddenly remembered that Qian Jun was surprised when he performed the 9 sun sword formation and found Su Yu's sword formation a little familiar. Now, Qian Jun also thought Su Yu's 9 sun sword formation was similar to the Cosmos sword formation of the royal family of the demon dimension. Have you mastered this sword formation? Su Yu asked. The 3 princes and princesses were stunned and nodded. Su Yu was ecstatic. He had searched far and wide for it, but now he had found it by chance. He fixed his eyes on the Cosmos sword formation performed by the demonic god of six paths. After the Cosmos sword formation appeared, 4 swords flew in the sky, 4 circled around the earth, and the last one guarded in the center. That was the name of the sword formation, Cosmos. Finally, the indifferent eyes of the dead soul worm changed slightly. Then, with a sharp scream, it pounced on the demonic god of six paths cut. The demonic god of six paths shouted in a low voice. The 4 swords in the sky and the 4 swords on the earth pierced toward the dead soul worm. When the 8 swords of heaven and earth combined into one, an unprecedented sword aura burst out. The sword aura seemed to be able to split the sky and earth and destroy the chaos. When the sword aura burst out, Su Yu and the others, who were far away from the sword formation, also felt a sharp pain all over their bodies. The combination of heaven and earth, the sword aura that could split the sky, was the mystery of the Cosmos sword formation. The more powerful the body of the sword was, the more horrible the sword aura would be when the 9 swords combined into one. Boom! When the 9 swords combined into one, a golden sword aura swept across the starry sky as if it was going to break the chaos and create a new world. The peerless brilliance couldn't be described by words. With a blood-curdling screech, the dead soul worm's soul body actually lost a small part of its wings. This was a medium deity who had failed to pass the ordeal. The power of the Cosmos sword formation shocked Su Yu and made him extremely excited. However, after this sword attack, the 9 broken swords of the Golden Flames Forbidden would dimmed quickly and turned into dust. Although the Cosmos sword formation was powerful, it did great damage to the body of the sword. Su Yu instantly understood the 9 suns sword formation and the Cosmos sword formation. The former was not powerful enough, but it could last for a long time. The latter was powerful, but it could only be used explosively and couldn't last for a long time. Su Yu didn't know how powerful the combination of the 2 sword formations would be. Chapter 1293. Squeak, the dead soul worm, whose wings had been cut off, did not die. It screamed horribly. Although no one could understand its language, everyone knew that the dead soul worm was completely irritated. After a loud and sharp scream, the dead soul worm emitted a red light, which made it look like a bloodworm. As the red light flashed, the demonic god of 6 paths covered his chest in pain. Another demon heart was destroyed. At this time, a blood-red shadow pierced through the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths intermittently. Then, the demonic god of 6 paths groaned in pain again. This time, his hand covering his chest was also pierced through. Another demon heart was destroyed. Another shadow pierced through the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. Then, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, one after another, the blood-red shadows pierced through the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. In just 10 breaths, 10 blood-red shadows pierced through the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. The demonic god of 6 paths had no power to resist. He could only watch his heart being destroyed one by one, until his own demon heart was left, which was a dark red heart that was much brighter than ordinary demon hearts. When the dead soul worm pierced through the heart, it did not break immediately. Instead, it kept releasing divine energy. He had never suffered such a serious injury before. Squeak, the dead soul worm shrieked, wanted to launch its final attack, but its red body gradually began to burn, dimming and becoming transparent. Its life had come to an end. Even so, the dead soul worm still turned into a broken line and went straight to the demonic god of 6 paths. As it slowed down, the light became dimmer and dimmer. Finally, with a bang, it turned into a spark and collapsed 10 meters away from the chest of the demonic god of 6 paths. The forehead of the demonic god of 6 paths was full of cold sweat. If he had died a little later, he would have died here today. Bang! Su Yu's life domain finally came to an end. Everyone had lost the life-saving charm of the immortal body. However, although the demonic god of 6 paths had been seriously injured, he could still kill all of them once. The demonic god of 6 paths no longer had any indifference on his face. He stared at Su Yu with infinite killing intent. It was too dangerous. This person, Su Yu, was indeed too dangerous, much more dangerous than what Princess Yunxia had expected. He had to die. The first prince could be spared for now, and the second princess and the 6th princess could also be spared for now. The demonic god of 6 paths had a hunch that Su Yu would be a great threat to the demon dimension in the future. Shua, the dark red body of the demonic god of 6 paths flashed and teleported to the front of Su Yu's chest. Then his monstrous divine strength pressed against Su Yu with an unshakable momentum. This was a peerless killing intent that he had used all of his strength. The first prince swung his demonic sword. The second princess and the 6th princess expressions changed drastically. They tried their best to block this attack. Scram! His roar was like rolling thunder, sending the 3 of them flying. The killing intent of the demonic god of 6 paths was unprecedentedly firm. At this moment, no one could stop him. As for Su Yu, he had almost used up all his trump cards. He had no strength left to fight against the powerful demonic god of 6 paths. However, at this moment of life and death, the purple-eyed demonic god, who had been silent all this while, suddenly shot out a dazzling purple light from his eyes. The purple light pierced through the dark starry sky, passing through the endless heavens and earth. The surface of his body was burning with a layer of purple flames. "He's burning his divine Tao," the eldest prince exclaimed. The divine Tao was the foundation for a deity to become a deity. Burning the divine Tao was equivalent to destroying one's divine position. Although it could be extremely powerful, a deity would never use it unless he was about to die. Heaven and earth as a prison. The purple-eyed demonic god shouted in a low voice. Two beams of purple light shot out from his eyes and disappeared into the boundless sea. It seemed that they had touched something invisible. When the light was reflected back, it carried a vague force of the heavenly law. Burning the divine Tao was equivalent to giving up one's divine position, which would inevitably lead to the arrival of the heavenly law. When the heaven and earth as a prison fell, the reflected purple light was divided into 100 parts and intertwined to form a purple cage, which trapped the demonic god of 6 paths in the air. "You are just a small deity. How dare you try to trap me by burning your divine Tao?" The demonic god of 6 paths shouted as he grasped the purple light with both hands and tried to break it open. The purple cage was shaking. It seemed that it was about to be shaken off. The purple flames on the purple-eyed demonic god's body became more and more intense. He turned around and looked at Suyu. "This is all I can do for you. Suyu, treat my apprentice well." After saying that, he turned around resolutely and disappeared into the heaven lake with the cage. "No!" The demonic god of 6 paths sensed his intention and roared furiously. He isolated the cage and shattered the body of the purple-eyed demonic god. However, the purple-eyed demonic god had already disappeared into the heaven lake. A terrifying, devouring force engulfed the cage, which was closely connected to the demonic god of 6 paths. The demonic god of 6 paths roared unwillingly, "No, I don't want to die." As the cage disappeared into the heaven lake, the sound of the demonic god of 6 paths stopped abruptly. Plop! The first prince, the second princess, and the 6th princess collapsed on the ground as if their bodies had been sucked dry. From the appearance of the demonic god of 6 paths, to the fight with him, to the attack of the dead soul worm, to the sacrifice of the purple-eyed demonic god and the demonic god of 6 paths. Everything that had happened in the past was like a dream. Standing by the heaven lake, Suyu bowed deeply to the demonic god of 6 paths. "Have a safe journey. I will take care of your apprentice for you." Without the sacrifice of the purple-eyed demonic god, they would all have been killed today. Suyu wanted the purple-eyed demonic god to enjoy his old age. Unexpectedly, he took the demonic god of 6 paths away. The 6th princess stared at Suyu's lonely and sorrowful back. The relief and excitement of eliminating the demonic god of 6 paths disappeared. She pursed her lips, came up behind Suyu, and said softly, "The purple-eyed demonic god was not famous in his life, but he killed the first demonic god of the demonic dimension. In his heart, he was actually very happy. Compared to passing away in a mediocre manner, I think he would rather die a heroic death." Suyu nodded slightly, looked back at her, and said, "Thank you. Will there be no more sacrifices?" Suyu looked at the vast world. The 6th princess said, "Unless one transcends the world and becomes the creator of the world, he will always be a speck of dust in the world, at the mercy of fate." Suyu looked at the world thoughtfully. The demonic god of 6 paths was gone, but Suyu couldn't relax, because there was still an existence far more powerful than the demonic god of 6 paths. The first demon emperor. He was the most horrifying existence in the Xing River. One day, the fate of all creatures would be destroyed and become nutrients for him to become a medium god. The demonic dimension. Without you, how peaceful would the Xing River be? Suyu's eyes were cold. Whether it was the Jinlong continent, the Jiuzhou world, the Eastern Alliance, the world of divine remains, or the Western Alliance, all misfortunes and tragedies were related to the demonic dimension. As long as the first demon emperor was alive, the Xing River would not be peaceful. Suyu's eyes were shining with determination. He had found what he wanted to do. He wanted to create a tomorrow and a future for himself and the creatures of the Xing River. However, before that, Some people and things had to be settled. Book deity, you hid in the demonic dimension, and I couldn't do anything to you. Now that you have come out, let's write off all our grievances. Su Yu's eyes were cold. If the Shang deity hadn't come back in time, Su Yu wouldn't have had the chance to release the dead soul worm. The book deity wasn't strong, but he was extremely good at seizing opportunities. The damage he caused was no less than any other deity. If he was given a chance, Su Yu had no doubt that the damage he would cause would be comparable to the demonic god of six paths. The sixth princess frowned. The book deity is cunning. Master has forced him into a dead end many times, but he can always use the book as a substitute to escape. If we are not fully prepared, I am afraid it will be difficult to kill him completely. Su Yu's eyes were cold. He has no chance to escape again. I have already understood why he can escape every time. The first time he used the book as a substitute, the second time, and the third time. No matter how stupid Su Yu was, he could still detect the clues. Let's go. Catch up with the Shang deity. It's time to fight the book deity to the death. Su Yu shouted. Swish! A group of people quickly broke through the air and chased in the direction of the Shang deity. What they didn't know was that after they left, a bubble suddenly popped up in the middle of the heavenly lake. A black pillar that was 100,000 feet long emerged from the heavenly lake in an unremarkable way. If one looked closely, they would discover that the pillar was actually a single hair. Half a day later, in the distant sky, the Shang deity guarded the entrance of a dead cavern world. She said coldly, Book deity, there's no need to hide anymore. You have done all kinds of evil. You deserve this day. In the cavern world, there was dead silence, and the book deity did not respond. However, with her senses, the Shang deity could feel the breath of the book deity and the fluctuations of his divine power. After hesitating for a moment, the Shang deity gritted her teeth and decided to step into the cavern world. Don't go in. At this moment, Su Yu's loud voice came from the end of the world. The Shang deity was stunned and saw Su Yu leading the three princes and princesses in a hurry. Seeing that they were still alive, she was overjoyed. So, they escaped from the hands of the terrible demonic god? Why are you here? The Shang deity asked. Su Yu landed and stared at the cavern world. He said in a deep voice, If we didn't come, we would have to collect your corpse. The Shang deity was displeased. The strength of the book deity is far inferior to mine. What you said is really, then look at what that is. Su Yu pointed to an area outside the cavern world that was hidden by a formation. The eldest prince's eyes flashed, and the demonic sword swept forward, breaking the formation. She saw that in that area, there were 3 pitch-black world-breaking talismans waiting to be activated. World-breaking talismans? The Shang deity was taken aback. If this talisman was activated, the entire cavern world would be destroyed. Even if the Shang deity could resist the power of the world-breaking talismans, it was impossible to keep herself from being seriously injured in the destruction of the cavern world. If the book deity took the opportunity to attack, the probability of her death was as high as 80%. Thinking of this, the Shang deity was shocked and broke into a cold sweat. So, the breath of the book deity in the cavern world was disguised by him to lure me in. Su Yu nodded. That's most likely the case. Chapter 1294. Su Yu said in a low voice, This is the tricky part of the book deity. The book deity, the world thinks that he became a deity through books, but they don't know that his body is a book. In this world, wherever there is a book, he can instantly create a clone with a book, and his real body will be reborn in a very distant place in the form of another book. This is why he can leave safely, even though we have forced him into a desperate situation many times. Unless there was only one book left in the family, he could easily escape with a thought. This was also why the book deity could escape without being noticed by the Shang deity and put down the bait to lure the Shang deity in. Hearing this, the Shang deity was shocked. Does that mean he can never be killed? There are as many books in the world as there are hairs on an ox. Su Yu shook his head. No. If he could use this method at any time, he would not have been injured by me and left behind the bad luck. If my guess is correct, the book deity's method has a time limit. Every time he uses it, he needs a period of time before he can use it again. Su Yu's eyes gradually narrowed. He lured you into the trap, and his real body must be hiding nearby. Once you are seriously injured, he will immediately appear and give you a fatal blow. So, the book deity who has just replaced his real body is nearby. If we can find him before he replaces his real body, it will be easy to kill him. As he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Well, it's time to end this lowly thing. The Shang deity almost fell into the trap and hated the book deity even more. Let's split up and search separately. He must be able to sense the range of this cavern world. Your cultivation is above his, and you must be able to sense his existence. Su Yu narrowed his eyes and sneered. Book deity, let's see where you can escape this time. Soon, the first prince's eyes flashed. Found him. He runs quite fast. Direction? Su Yu said. East. Isn't east the direction of the Great Eastern Alliance? Su Yu's eyes were deep. Let's go to the west. The first prince was stunned. West. His breath is definitely in the east, and it is disappearing quickly. In other words, the aura of the book deity in the east must be the book deity himself. Su Yu shook his head and said, I know this opponent very well. The one in the east is definitely not his real body. The time it took for him to change his substitute is shorter than I thought. But to be on the safe side, first prince, you will search for the aura in the east. We will search in the west. The west was the direction of the heaven lake. The Shang deity frowned and said, even if the aura of the book god in the east is a camouflage, why are you so sure that it is the direction of the heaven pool instead of the south and the north? Su Yu said, it is very simple. You chased him all the way from the heaven lake to here, and he could only leave behind books along the way as a substitute. There were no books in the south and north that could be used as a substitute, so he could only change into his real body and flee back. The Shang deity's eyes lit up. What Su Yu said was indeed reasonable. She couldn't help but praise. You are really the nemesis of the book deity. Wasn't that right? He had subdued the book deity all the way from the Great Eastern Alliance to the Devil World, and then from the Devil World to here. Not only did he kill his entire family, but he was also going to kill himself. Whoosh! The crowd was divided into two groups. The first prince first caught up with the aura of the book deity in the east, and the result was exactly the same as Su Yu had guessed. A book containing the aura and divine power of the book deity was placed on a divine bone ship, driven by a little demon, and rushed to the east. The first prince immediately notified Su Yu through the communication jade pendant. At the same time, he turned back and headed to the west, with admiration in his eyes. Su Yu is really a divine man. I am afraid that the book deity will not be able to escape this time. In the west. Soon, the eyes of the sixth princess flickered, and she was the first to discover the aura and divine power of the book deity. In the west, he is galloping towards the heaven lake. Sure enough, 2 hours later, the sixth princess said, the aura and divine power have stopped. Everyone rushed over to take a look, and an abandoned book was gradually dissipating. It is him. The sixth princess stared at Su Yu with her pretty eyes full of worship. Su had guessed it correctly. Su Yu smiled coldly. If we continue to chase him, he can only escape to the west. Half an hour later, the sixth princess found the fluctuations of the book deity again. He is trying to escape to the south. Su Yu said, second princess, you chase him to the south and force him to replace his real body. Yes. The second princess quickly flew away. Soon after, the second princess received a message and found the book deity, but he replaced his real body on the spot and escaped. Almost at the same time, the sixth princess sensed the west, and the aura and divine power of the book deity reappeared. He is going to escape to the north. Shang deity, it's your turn to force him to change his real body. The Shang deity immediately flew over and found the gloomy tree goddess. Forced to escape, the book deity replaced his real body. He returned to the west. Su Yu sneered. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows, and the book deity left more than 3 escape routes. However, it should be the end soon. The sixth princess found the aura of the book deity again. This time he fled south again. Su Yu said, "This time it is up to you. He has been replaced several times, and the distance between us and him is getting shorter and shorter. He has lost the time to replace his real body." Half an hour later, the aura of the book deity in the south disappeared, and he was replaced for the last time by a real body in the west. Su Yu was too close to him, and there was not enough time to wait for the next replacement. Finally, 2 hours later, beside the Heaven Lake, the book deity had nowhere to run. Although he left a few more books in the north and south, there was no time for him to continue to replace them. Because it was indeed, as Su Yu said, every time he replaced his real body, it took at least 2 hours. "Book deity, it's time to end," Su Yu said lightly, and the emerald light flashed around him, and the tree goddess appeared. Today's tree goddess was comparable to the all-access merchant god, and it was easy to kill the book deity. The book deity was physically overdrawn, and his face was pale as paper. "Enough. You have forced me to this point. Isn't it enough?" "If you don't die, of course, it's not enough." Su Yu's eyes were murderous. The book deity sighed. "In fact, with our wisdom, if we can join forces, we can control the entire Xing River. Why bother killing each other?" "Oh, book deity, you and I are both smart people. Don't tell me this kind of trick to play with people's hearts." Su Yu interrupted him ruthlessly. "You can't escape death today. I only give you 2 choices. First, I will imprison your soul and torture it forever. Second, I will give you a quick death, but you have to answer a question for me." The book deity did not hesitate to choose the second option, because there was still hope of survival. "What is the question?" The book deity's eyes turned as if he was thinking about countermeasures and how to get out of this predicament. Su Yu said coldly, "I want to know, what is the relationship between you and Yun Yazi?" In the mansion of the glittering deity, Su Yu unexpectedly learned that Yun Yazi was actually the book deity